It's NASCAR Cup Series racing from Pocono Raceway. The Great Getaway 400, presented by VisitPA.com. Hello, everyone. Alongside our crew chief, Steve Letarte, Rick Allen with you. And you just saw a shot of the infield here. It is a sold-out crowd. Steve, what an atmosphere for a race.
It's unreal. I was just down on Pit Road, rode through the infield. 3,700 campsites here at Pocono. They're all sold out. The grandstands are full, and I think the competitors feel that. When you come somewhere that is packed with fans, I think it kind of amps the situation.
And 50 years they've been celebrating racing here. That's a lot of memories, but Steve, some of them aren't so good.
Well, it's a tricky triangle. We talk a lot about the three corners, but we forget about these extra long straightaways that connect them. And when you have an issue at the end of the straightaway or the middle of the straightaway, high speeds, speedway like wrecks. We think of Daytona, Talladega. Well, don't ignore Pocono. Some of the biggest, most violent accidents we have seen here at Pocono. We don't talk about it, the drivers don't talk about it, but they have to think about it in the back of their mind. These are the biggest names in the sport taking some of the biggest hits.
We just saw Jeff Burton in turn number 1, and he talked about the speeds over 190 miles an hour as they are entering turn 1. Very dangerous, and tempers definitely are challenged when you come to Pocono. Let's take a look at the starting lineup, and we'll go through that starting with Marty.
Well, Rick, Josh Berry has a terrific starting spot today, and he has shown the ability to replicate success at tracks where Rodney Childers and Kevin Harvick have been strong at in the past, like Pocono. Rodney Childers told me they made some pretty big improvements for qualifying, and they hope those improvements translate over to the race setup as well today, Parker.
And Marty starting at 11th, Chase Elliott there has a pretty good starting spot, and that's kind of been the theme of their season. Good, not great. And talking to his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, he told me it's about taking these good days and turning them into great days as we rumble toward the playoffs. With just one race win on the season, they'd like to increase that number, Kim.
Well, Bubba Wallace starts 29th this afternoon. Despite that, this team is confident in their race car, saying Bubba just went a little too low in turn 2, coming to the green and qualifying. They told me their setup is very similar to teammate Tyler Reddick's, who was fastest in practice. As we look at the final page of the starting grid, Todd Gilliland qualified in the 33rd position. Not the qualifying effort the team wanted, but the silver lining is that the strategy playbook here is wide open at Pocono. We're embedded with this team in stage 2, so we're going to get an up-close look at what crew chief Ryan Bergenti might have up his sleeve for this team here today. Now for the start of the race, let's go back to the booth where Steve Letarte and Rick Allen are standing by.
Thanks, Kim. We're going to go a little bit further up in the grid and actually talk to the driver of the 12, who's one of the teams that we'll be embedded with. We mentioned just a moment ago, the 12 and the access to these drivers is really amazing what we're able to do and just be embedded with these teams. Let's hear from the driver. Dial him up now, Steve.
See if we can get him on the radio here. We'll listen in. Hey, Ryan, it's Letarte, the guys in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, man, I know it's 11 wins in your career so far in a championship. Back to the side of your first, though. Is there something special or some great memories? I almost see the smile on your face as you're riding around here.
Yeah, you know, a lot of great memories here. I feel like you always have those memories, you know, when you come back to a place where you get your first win and really anything. So, yeah, hopefully we can add another one today. Wabash Ford Mustang. I thought it was pretty fast to practice. We just try to get it, you know, to be a little bit more comfortable to drive, but appreciate everyone's effort. I feel like, you know, it's one of those races where strategy gets crazy. Hopefully we hit it right and have a shot at it in the end.
Let's talk about this track. You mentioned in practice about the balance of all three corners and having to compromise. How do you manage that with your emotion of trying to win when you know you have to not be perfect in all three?
Yeah, I think it's just like managing your expectations of each corner, you know, and you get a good idea in practice of, okay, hey, these are my strong corners, this is one I struggle in, and how do we work on the one you're struggling in without, you know, hurting your strong corners. So it's a track of compromises, and you're just going to have to deal with a corner that you might not be the best in, but you hope to maximize the one that, you know, you're strongest in, and hopefully utilize the corners you can pass into your advantage.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time. Good luck today, man. I know the fans appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the race.
Always great. I'm telling you, I think he was smiling. I know you
I
can't
agree.
see, but it looked like there was a smile on his face as he was riding around.
So you mentioned it, strategy, and he mentioned it as well. You got to hit it right. The guy who's making all the decisions is Jonathan Hassler, and Marty's with him.
Yeah, Rick, I think everybody has mentioned strategy today. Jonathan Hassler is going to call Ryan Blaney by his pit stall here as he watches him come down pit road to make sure that everything goes well for later in the race. So Jonathan, is there a place on the schedule that has a more open playbook than Pocono?
Yeah, Pocono is certainly one of the most challenging races for sure with strategy. You know, it's one of the places where you can pit under green and not lose a lap, so that certainly opens up the options for everybody, and tires aren't significant, so you can definitely, you know, stay out at times. Certainly fuel strategy is going to be most important today.
There's an open conversation going here on the pit box. There's also voices coming from North Carolina. How do you sort through all that information and make the decisions you need to make today?
Yeah, we've got a strong, you know, team of engineers both here at the track and at the shop at Team Penske, and we just, you know, try to lay out a game plan of, you know, what we think might happen during the race, and certainly respond to those situations. You know, you don't always envision everything that's going to happen, and that's why we're happy to have that group back at the shop to talk through different scenarios with.
You know, the best thing about your pit stall today, by the way, you've got about a 100-foot walk to the start-finish line in case your driver wins.
That's good. Sounds good to me.
There you go. Nicely, conveniently placed pit box for Jonathan Hassler and the team. We appreciate all the access Team Penske is going to give us today.
And Marty looked pretty comfortable sitting up there on the pit box. That might be the place where he'll just want to hang out and enjoy. I know he's going to be up there in stage 2, but we're also going to be riding along with Todd Gilliland. We have the Goodyear on board that is going to help us give the vantage point, but we'll be embedded with the 38 team as well. And we'll be hearing from Ryan Bergenti as well, so we'll find out if the strategy is different between the two teams we'll be embedded with.
Well, this view right here shows it's comfortable when you sit on the pit box like that back row. You don't have to make the decisions. But with the front row, the seats are a little hotter when you have to decide when to come down a pit road. And you heard it. All you had to think about was, what did I hear? Well, fuel, well, and tires, and cautions, and saving gas, and that's really it. When we come here to Pocono, it's an unbelievable test of horsepower, downforce, creativity, execution, strategy. It really has everything, and I think that's why winning here, like Ryan Blaney right here did for his first career win, it's just so rewarding.
Okay, you just listed off numerous things there. Give me the numbers of this race as we take a look at the race analysis.
Well, it's going to be broken down into 3 stages. The first stage, 30 laps. They can easily make that on fuel because they can go 40 to 42 laps. It gets complicated here in stage 2. You're going to have to make a pit stop at some point. And then how do you get that right? And then at the end of the second stage of lap 95, I think that's the intersection. Because if you fill up fuel here at lap 95, you could pit very late, way out here. If you stay out at 95, you might have to pit early in that stage. That's really going to be the split, the 2 groups we have. And as I say all the time, Rick, if you tell me when the yellows come out, I will tell you when you should come to pit road.
I know a couple already into stages,
sure.
But that's about it. Let's take a look at the point standings and playoff standings as we enter this race. Now just 6 to go, counting this one before the regular season ends and the playoff starts. Now only 4 names are above the red line that are white. That means they haven't won, they haven't locked themselves in. So with 6 opportunities, only 4 spots still available. Marty.
Rick, keep an eye on Christopher Bell today, who's on top of those playoff standings. Over the last few races, they've had a couple of wins and had a nice 5-race top 10 streak going until they finished 36th and 37th in the last 2 races. Talked to Adam Stevens, his crew chief, this morning. He said, hey, but we had winning speed in both of those races, but this weekend we've missed the speed a little bit. That's why we have teammates that we're relying on some of their setup items in the 20 car today, Kim.
Well, Marty, you heard Rick talk about the winless drivers who hold the last 4 spots in the playoff. That last position currently held by Chris Buescher. He was pushed to that spot after Alex Bowman's win last weekend. So I asked crew chief Scott Graves, how does that complicate things? He said, well, it doesn't necessarily change their approach. It changes the stress level and the pressure. Everything is mounting. He said if we don't win in the next 2 weekends, it will not make that Olympic break enjoyable at all. They'll be thinking about what they need to do when they're back on track, and that stress, Parker, is just going to fester for them. They'll look for a win in the next 2 weeks.
And Kim, one of the great performances of this weekend already. Look no further than Zane Smith, that 71 car, who for the first time in his Cup Series career made 2nd round qualifying. Remember, he got his best finish of the season just 2 weeks ago at Nashville. It's been a trying season, but they seem to be turning around that 71 car, guys.
Thanks, Parker. Kim had talked about the urgency of Chris Buescher being right there on the bottom of that list, right above the cut line. One thing that's a little different with his team today, different spotter. Brian Keselowski, brother to Brad Keselowski, will be spotting for Chris Buescher. Mike Herman is not with us today, a little under the weather. So a fill-in, how difficult is that, having a different voice in your ear when so much is on the line?
Well, normally I would say, you know, you kind of will get a rhythm. He has experience on top of the roof. but your rhythm is going to start right here, 4 or 5 wide into turn 1.
Out in front of the field, he won his second pole yesterday. Ty Gibbs brings him to the green flag. We're underway. And now rocketing down the front stretch into turn 1. They all stay 2 by 2. Peeking out just a bit, there's Ross Chastain.
Yeah, a bit surprising. Very much more organized than we've seen here in the past. Maybe not so much in the back half, as now we see 3 wide trying to get figured out off of turn 1.
Everybody gets through that first turn, and now they head toward the tunnel turn. There's a tunnel underneath turn 2, and it is rough. Side by side for the lead still through turn 2.
Really nice job by the 54 and the 24. Pretty difficult to run 2 wide through turn 2. They did it successfully. Now we'll see if that 54 of Ty Gibbs can use that top lane to maybe carry the momentum down this extremely long front stretch, really the second longest, and he does. He clears the 24 and then swerves down to try to get away from that draft.
Not going to give the 24 any help, and so he clears the 24. And here comes Martin Truex Jr. A lot of people have had Martin Truex Jr. on the top of their list as far as favorites coming into this race.
He led every category I look at. When you look at 5-lap, 10-lap average, long run speed, I mean, he had everything you want out of your car in practice. But that was yesterday. We saw heavy rains this morning. We'll have watched the rubber off the racetrack. And just how much different will it be after the Xfinity Series race? So it always seems to be just a little different on Sunday.
Field lining up now as they follow after Ty Gibbs. Gibbs still looking for his first ever win at the highest level after winning a championship a couple of years back in the Xfinity Series. Still waiting to break into victory lane here at this level. But pulling away easily now from William Byron and Martin Truex Jr., who have a fight for second on. Comes Christopher Bell in the 20. That's the battle for second. Parker.
Well, Rick, you mentioned Ty Gibbs looking for his first win. I actually talked to him about that just before the race here today, and I said, when you have a car as fast as you had in qualifying and you put on a performance like that, do you even think about the idea of winning one of these races? He said, no, I can't. He goes, I don't want to drive myself crazy trying to think about all the things I can't control. I think about my performance and what I can control. I know if I'm at my best, my 10/10s, then everything should be able to work out and find ourselves in victory lane. He said, that's exactly how I tackled the Xfinity, and that's how I plan to tackle it here in Cup. Early start here looking really good at the front.
Peeking out the 9 of Chase Elliott. Just a few cars getting out of line. For the most part staying in line, as we see on the BuildSubmarines.com onboard of Chris Buescher, following after teammate and team owner Brad Keselowski in front of him in the 6.
The straightaway connecting turns 1 to turn 2. This turn 2, it looks pretty benign, but I'm going to tell you, when you go around here in the pace car, you're basically heading at a 90-degree corner. That tunnel corner. Oh, you see here Joey Logano out of the gas over that bump. You talked about how rough it was, Rick. The 22 did not handle the bump as Joey had hoped it would.
And that turn 2 is patterned after Indy. So the racetrack we're going to next week, they're getting a little bit of experience here through turn 2 at Pocono.
The difference is, in the middle of all 4 corners of Indy, there's not a big bump. That makes that, I'm not going to say easier, but just a little bit more predictable. Right here we see Kyle Busch, remember, had to start in the back after mechanical issues on the 8 this morning. They repaired. A big moment off from turn 3. Let's ride on board and just watch this correction. And that was kind of late, but it's going to continue to hurt him all the way down the straightaway.
Here comes the 9 of Elliott, getting by that 17 of Chris Buescher. 77 of Zane Smith. Excuse me, Carson Hocevar right behind them. Well, we're glad you made it out of turn number 1. Jeff Burton back up in the booth with us.
Many times in my career, I didn't make it out of turn 1.
Well, you heard right there, another big lift out of Buescher. And I assume that's tight, Jeff, right? You kind of get in there and you just know the front tires have been tracked. So the only way to really get him to grip back up is to lift and just slow, I mean not slow down, but just quit accelerating.
That's right. You're always operating at the edge of grip with these race cars, and you're trying to find it. So you heard Chris Buescher have to lift off the gas. You never want to lift on corner exit because it kills your momentum down the straight. And of course, these straights, you know, this is the back straightaway. It's not anywhere near as long as the front straightaway, but look how long he's still on it. And look at the gain that he's making on Chase Elliott. Downshift into the tunnel. And you hear him when he went to the gas, he never came back out of it. That's what you want to be able to do. There's a rev limiter right there.
I was going to say he stayed in fourth gear. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So later in the race, Jeff, why that might be the most comfortable, if I need you to work on your fuel mileage, when and how you shift could be a big difference. Like you might run in fifth gear all the way around. And while that's not optimal in lap time, at some point in this race, it's not just how
really strong through two, maybe suffering a little bit free.
It's not just how fast you could go, but how much fuel you burn doing it.
He didn't shift into fifth until he got past the start-finish line coming off of turn 3. There's the Verizon on board with Ryan Blaney. Blaney 1 spot better than where he started, running in the 7th spot right now, 4.5 seconds behind Gibbs.
Is it my imagination, Jeff, or do you think that bump is worse than last year?
It's not gotten better, and yeah, I think it'll come back next year and be worse again.
Yeah.
You know, it just every year it gets worse and worse, and you can see that with Blaney, he's trying to make this fast, but what he loved is that the 48 car went to the second groove. That gave him the bottom. That allowed clean air to be on that race car, and that's what you're always wanting.
Ty Gibbs, a little over 2-second advantage over William Byron early here at Pocono. Download the official app of NASCAR and follow the action with free live scoring. There's in-car cameras and radio broadcasts. Just search NASCAR in your app store. You can download and start a free trial today. Pretty good view from the Brestry on board there, looking off of the car of Austin Dillon. But how about this shot? Today's aerial coverage brought to you by Shady Rays, showing you just how big this racetrack is. That's off of turn 3. Want to listen into the 11 radio of Denny Hamlin, already starting to think about strategy of maybe even helping his teammate.
Tell Martin if you want to work together, you push him on the 24 if he runs slow.
Copy.
Just wait till I get close enough though.
Just trying to think if they can work together drafting on these long straights. You must feel like the 24 Byron is holding the Truex up a little bit. Feels like if he can ever make a move on him, what he's saying is, I won't make it 3 wide. Like, you make a move and you get there next to him, I'm not going to make it 3 wide. I'm just going to get behind you and push you rather than put you in a bad situation. Don't be afraid to try it. Because this is one of those racetracks we saw in a lot of yesterday's races that if you try to make a pass and you don't complete it and there's people behind you, you lose so much momentum that they pass you and you actually lose spots in trying to make a pass, Parker.
And guys, as we look back in the field here in turn 11th place, Joey Logano trying to hold off Chase Elliott there. Earlier, just a couple laps ago, we saw Joey have a bit of a moment down in turn 2. Take a listen to what he had to say on the radio about the handling of that car.
Just can't hustle the exits or anywhere. Bottoming out, tunnel.
Copy that. Main entry here in the tunnel. Try to help the exit best you can.
And that bottoming out is exactly what we saw in turn 2. I talked to his crew chief, Paul Wolf, about this race car. He said, we have the speed, but we're in this zone where we have to decide how loose is too loose with this race car versus losing that speed. And guys, tell me if this is my imagination, but as I've watched some of these Penske cars over the last 2 days, I feel like they might be some of the roughest as we go over to that bump right now in turn 2. In watching the rear end of those cars, we were on board with Blaney just a couple laps ago, saw him have a moment down in turn 2. So in that effort of finding performance, the drivers having to deal with a lot down there in that bump in turn 2.
Well, so the car wants the back of the car down. The closer the diffuser gets to the asphalt, the more downforce it makes. So when they say bottom out, there's really 3 things. 1, it's physically the car bottoming out on the wear blocks and underneath it. 2, it can be the vertical strakes on the diffuser, like you have enough air taken out that you hit the bottom of the racetrack. And that's what we see right here. The cars that kind of smoke, like that little wisp of smoke right there, that's the carbon fiber grinding off the bottom of the diffuser strakes. The other issue is remember these shocks have mechanical stops in them? You won't be able to see that in this situation. It won't create smokes like Bubba Wallace did right there, right? It would actually just feel rough for the racetrack as, wow, big hit for Noah Gragson.
And it looks as though he backed into the wall, and so the first caution has come out. Off of turn 1.
He's running about 24th position.
Gets it fired back up again. Looks like he's going to try to drive it back in, but this is what happened.
Yeah, it just looks like he got too loose. Couldn't hold the back of the car. And see, that goes a little bit about what you were talking about getting the back of the car down. You want that car to be as low as it can be in the back, like you said. But what Joey Logano was saying is it's already hidden, you can't go lower. So that's not how we're going to be able to make rear grip with this race car. So Noah Gragson could quite simply been in the same situation where they wanted the back of the car lower to make more rear downforce, but they couldn't get it there because they were hitting the racetrack. That makes the car loose, makes it very easy to spin out.
We saw him put the window net down. He drove it off of the racetrack and onto the apron, and then looks like he realized it was terminal damage for that car. So safety crew is there to deal with Noah Gragson. Very unfortunate early on in this race. Only 14 laps complete of the 160 scheduled. Steve, you're going to be busy on Wednesday. You'll be a part of the NBC Sports on Sirius XM. That's NASCAR Radio Channel 90, live Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern with the bag man and Pete Pistone on the morning drive. So you'll talk obviously about the strategy, the winning strategy. Can you give us an insight here yet?
It's going to be great to talk about what happened this week. Looking forward to Indianapolis next week, back on the oval, which has a lot of the same opportunity to pit. So 2 similar tracks back to back. Always great to go on there, and I might even harass Pete a little bit about some baseball. So there's going to be a lot of good conversation, but it's great to jump on Sirius XM and join those two. Rick, this is an interesting time for a yellow. You know, we talk a lot about strategy, and I don't think this really changes the plan for the leaders, 54 of Gibbs or Byron of Truex, but it's going to change someone's plan. So, you know, we're on board with Kyle Busch earlier. Remember, he went all the way to the back, right? Is this what he uses to try to flip around and get some sort of advantage either in tires or, more importantly, fuel, get some fuel in the race car to open up opportunities? So I don't expect to see the leaders, but somewhere in this field, I would imagine it's going to split. Some are going to come to pit road.
Busch has scored 33rd.
Yeah, there you go.
You see Christopher Bell leading, looks like the 22 of Logano. Yep, riding along with the Hunt Brothers Pizza on board there as they come to you, Marty.
Rick, we talked about the handling issues for Christopher Bell yesterday. He said he was way more secure on entry today, which he said that he liked, but a little bit too tight on exit and a divergent point strategy-wise here, Parker, as Steve mentioned.
And Marty, as we see Joe Logano come here, we were just talking about his issues inside that 22 car. They're choosing to try and help the 22 here with some adjustments. You see air pressure adjustments as they go around. They will do 4 tires and fill it full of fuel for Joe Logano on the 22 to get a little bit off strategy here and help the handling there.
Early on, differing strategies. Saw the race off pit road there. Bell and Logano very close. The reason for the caution, Noah Gragson in the 10 backs it into turn 1. And he is out of the race. A 50-foot inflatable submarine has been on display this weekend at the NASCAR Fan Zone in Pocono with BuildSubmarines.com. A 1/11 size replica of the U.S. Navy's new Columbia-class sub. NASCAR fans have also been learning about stable, sustaining, skilled trades, careers available right now across the country to help build the real deal. You can learn about those opportunities as well by visiting BuildSubmarines.com. Ride along with the 17. Again, the caution coming out because of the 10 of Noah Gragson into the wall. This is not the way this weekend was supposed to go after the announcement that he will be with Front Row Motorsports next year. That announcement came out because with Stewart Haas Racing closing, now we know where Josh Berry is going. Noah Gragson to Front Row. Chase Briscoe will take over the 9 for Martin Truex Jr. retiring at the end of the year. At Joe Gibbs Racing, still an unknown is Ryan Preece.
Yeah, and I think there's still some movement. You know, in the garage, there's some questions yet to be answered. It's why it's going to be a busy, 12 or 15 weeks here to end the season.
2x2 once again, and Gibbs on the outside. William Byron on the inside as they come back to the restart zone. And about to get underway with lap 17.
Larson. Oh, yeah, there you go. I was waiting for somebody to be the first one to make it 3 wide. I thought Larson was going to make a move to do it. That was a pretty calm restart.
Up the racetrack went the 24. Byron went up there. Also the 4 of Josh Berry is up there. And now look at Martin Truex Jr. taking over the lead.
Berry has a problem. I don't know if he's got a tire down or what it is, but he's way off pace.
54 as well. Ty Gibbs just overcooked the entry. He got up there 3 wide. Take a look at the top of your screen. Just, I guess it was loose. Look a little wiggle, Jeff, maybe for the 54.
Yeah, just it's hard to tell there. It's hard to imagine that he went that far up the racetrack at that part of the racetrack without the back of the car being the problem. It was tame on the straightaway, but it wasn't tame when they got to the corner.
And now it's Denny Hamlin who's settled into second. Right behind him, Tyler Reddick, then William Byron, and Gibbs has settled into 5th now after starting on pole. And even losing 5th. So Ryan Blaney gets by, and Chase Elliott also trying to take spots away from the young driver of the 54. Josh Berry on pit road, Kim.
And after that incident, he came on the radio and said, I just don't feel comfortable. Crew Chief Rodney Childers said, let's bring it in and put 4 on. Before that incident, though, he did say he felt like the car was better than it was yesterday. We'll see if any of that contact changes how the car feels to Josh Berry.
Talked about all the moving pieces happening currently as far as silly season and different jobs for the drivers. But how about Rodney Childers? It was announced that he will be going to Spire. So right now the crew chief of that 4 of Josh Berry, but he's making the move to Spire, which they're really starting to build an arsenal of great people that are, putting these cars together, making strategy calls and driving.
Yeah, great hire by Spire. Rodney is very respected. His resume speaks for itself. 40 wins, a championship. I think they can invest. It's one thing to invest money and buy equipment, but nothing replaces kind of that mindset, that drive that's required to compete at this level. Hendrick trio right here.
Yeah, Bowman on the inside of the 2 on the outside of Elliott and Larson. It looked like Elliott and Larson were working together, and Bowman was trying to side draft him. Bowman winning a week ago in the streets of Chicago. Here comes the 71. Look at this move by Zane Smith.
Zane Smith, good qualifying effort and a little bit of contact right there with the 48 and the 5. I'm not so sure that Larson knew they were 3 wide. Joey Logano trying to take advantage of it. Our brother's Pizza Cam. He's on the bottom of the racetrack. You see the draft on the outside trying to be used for straightaway speed, but Logano on the bottom. It's good for momentum, but watch Larson down this back straightaway, which is what running the outside does. Just gives him the momentum. Logano not going away.
Logano on new tires. He was the first car off from pit road. Was running 11th when he pitted. Currently battling for the 11th spot. He'll concede to the 5.
Brad Keselowski just behind in the number 6. Keselowski running 12th right now. Now it's Martin Truex Jr., Hamlin, and Reddick. Toyotas with top 3 spots. Martin Truex Jr. out front. You're watching the great Getaway 400. And that's exactly what Martin Truex Jr. is trying to do, is Getaway, presented by visitpa.com. And those of you that have wagered on this race, you can also do some wagering in race also.
Yeah, you can cheer him on. DraftKings Sportsbook is an authorized gaming operator of NASCAR, and this week new customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code SPEED when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. And you see, as you mentioned, the live betting odds on the bottom left. Hamlin still the favorite at 3-1. Truex, though, with the lead. His odds have decreased down to 370. We see Bubba Wallace on pit road. I think it's purely a strategy call. He was falling far enough behind the leader that if he ran all the way to 3 to go, which is kind of the standard pit window to come to pit road, you would come then, but you have to pit before then so you don't lose a lap. Let's listen into the 23.
I don't have a car, guys. I don't have a car to be aggressive. So, get it better, please. I can't do 3. I'm about to crash every time. I don't know if it's ride quality or what.
So you heard Bubba talk about the car and the balance. Now for Bubba, Booty Barker, nice job bringing him to pit road, as I mentioned, a couple laps early so you don't lose a lap. But now the issue is he has to hold off the leader with 5 to go. Does he have the pace to hold Truex off? He only has about a 1-second gap.
And the concern is Bubba Wallace was saying, I don't have the car to be aggressive. So is he going to be fast enough? Are new tires going to cover up the poor handling car to keep Truex from catching him?
Kim.
No, Gregson, out of the care center after into the wall and out of the race. What happened?
I just got loose in turn 1. We were battling, being pretty loose in 1 and then 3 to start the race, and then nobody got into me. I was all alone. I just started bouncing and got loose. So I was trying to just limp it until we could get to the caution, tighten up a little bit, but yeah, it just took off on me. So definitely a bummer super early in the race, but thanks to Overstock.com and this whole number 10 team, it hasn't really been the weekend we would have hoped for through practice and qualifying, and now on into the race, striking out so early. But appreciate all the fans for all the support, and we'll go on to Indy. Indy will be fun next weekend, and try and enjoy that.
That confusion and disappointment in Noah's voice, that is the challenge of this car. You hear so many drivers, Kyle Busch has talked about it. It's hard to know what the limit of this car is. This isn't a new car by any means. They've been racing it for several years, but they're still trying to figure it out. That thing was turning around backwards before he knew it.
As we see right here, Ryan Blaney coming to pit road, strategy call 3 laps before the end of the stage. He's not going to be alone. There's going to be a bunch of takers behind him. Pit road will close next lap when the leader comes to the start finish. So on board with Ryan Blaney, such a great view. Marty.
Look at the left-hand side of your screen. All those cars coming to pit road. Blaney pretty happy with his race car. A little bit better than practice yesterday. Just needs a little bit of rear grip. That's his only complaint, but just one number. Ty Gibbs pitting in front of you, Parker.
Right, Marty. He was the leader to start this race. Won the pole, fell back to 6th, came on the radio and just said, I'm super loose from that heat cycle on tires. So they decided to flip this stage. As you see here, 4-gear tires full of fuel that he's away.
Interesting that these guys decided to pit at this situation. Remember, we had a yellow, 10 or 12 laps ago, which was another option, but it's not that I don't like it. It's just interesting. Now we'll see if I think everybody had efficient enough pit stops to stay out in front of the leader. You can do all the math you want, Rick, but if you have a slow pit stop, you still have an issue. There's Larson right there. You see the 71 of Smith. You see right there, next in line. I think that's a 2 of Cindric. Here's Bubba Wallace still battling to keep Truex behind him, doing a nice job coming to 1 to go in the stage.
So differing strategies, and we knew that was going to be the case here at Pocono. And Steve, I actually asked you this question about 4 hours ago. If you were Martin Truex Jr., who we thought had one of the best cars, would your strategy be different knowing you could be out front?
Well, the question now is, do they counter? You saw that many guys pit. So Truex now knows he's going to cycle to the back if he tries to win this stage. And I think you have to stay out and win the stage. I don't think you can pit right here coming to 2 to go. He chooses not to. His staying out will close pit road at the start finish.
Last lap for Martin Truex Jr. In stage 1, Gibbs was out front for 17 laps. Truex Jr. has been out front for 12. Those are the only 2 that have led the field here at Pocono.
You know, I was wrong, Rick. The pit road closed a lap ago. So Truex's bed was kind of made. During that pit cycle, he took 2 to go and closed pit road. So, hey, good news is I think he has a really high chance of winning the stage, which is that playoff point and a lot of points. I know he hasn't won a race, but moving up that regular season standings, Jeff, will help him with playoff points when they do start.
Good points.
Coming into this race, 2 playoff points for Martin Truex Jr. Now, as you had mentioned, he has about a 1-second lead over Denny Hamlin, and he is going to win stage 1 at Pocono. It's the 3rd stage win of 2024, so that means 1 more playoff point and his 3rd stage win at Pocono. As we see a good battle here between Logano and Brad Keselowski. Logano edges Keselowski right at the line. So the top 10 all getting points in stage 1. Martin Truex Jr. a playoff point. Quickly, stage 1 complete here in Pocono Mountains. NBC Sports coverage of NASCAR on USA is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle auto, home, or motorcycle insurance. Visit progressive.com. And by Credit One Bank. NASCAR American Express card. Steve, you mentioned it earlier, 3,700 camping sites in the infield of Pocono Raceway, and they're all sold out. It's a sold-out crowd here, a picture-perfect afternoon in the Pocono Mountains as the field coming around, and we'll have the opportunity to make it to pit road. There are going to be a few that are going to stay out, and we see those staying on the right side there, and pit's about to take place. Kim?
Tyler Reddick pitting from the 3rd position. You see top left. He said it steps out in turn 3 and is way too sketchy, but he told his team, I don't want to tighten it up. But again, it is just way sketchy. Slight air pressure adjustment called by crew chief Billy Scott. Marty.
Denny Hamlin said his car was a little bit loose in the entry of turn 1, tight in the entry of turn 3. They are going to have to wait on fuel here going all the way to the end of the stage. Hard to believe just a 3rd playoff point of the year for Martin Truex Jr. He said the turn was great until the 23 got in front of him a little bit too tight. Parker.
And William Byron, you see pulled away there. They waited a little bit on fuel, so he'll come out maybe about 4th in line here. The cars that pitted here. Fuel strategy, big part of these pit stops.
Looks like Chase Elliott might have had the advantage coming off of pit road. We mentioned a few stayed out. We'll be embedded with the 12 team and the 38 team when we come back for stage 2. Enter during each commercial break for the chance to win $2,000. Follow @BushBeer on X and reply with #BreakForBush, #sweepstakes to enter. And we have entered the pit box of the 38, and up on top of that pit box is Kim Kuhn.
Yeah, and Rick, crew chief Ryan Burgundy is a Plainville, Connecticut native, and he grew up in mod country. That's how he got his start in racing. And as you're looking at some photos here, he grew up working with and learning from mods legend Ted Christopher. Ryan's dad actually raced Ted Christopher. Their shops were next door to each other, so he had been immersed in racing since he was born. You see him there in the white shirt, 2nd or 3rd from the left in that photo with Ted Christopher. But Burgundy has turned those skills into successful career of his own. He now finds himself atop the box for Todd Gillen, has led Todd into a career season, Marty. This is his 15th year in the Cup Series.
You know, Kim, I asked Ryan Blaney why Pocono was so important to him. You would think it was because he got his first career win here, right? He said, actually, no, it goes much further back than that. Ryan Blaney was a young man with his dad, Dave, here, and he got to run quarter midgets at the track here at Pocono. That's a 9-year-old Ryan Blaney winning races here at Pocono on the little track outside. Jeff, you know it as well as anyone. So many drivers, sons and daughters, were able to race out there, have some success, and get them a taste of what it was like to be in a race car. Clearly, that affected Ryan Blaney, and that's one of the big reasons why Pocono is one of his favorite racetracks.
Yeah, this is a racetrack that the drivers' families love to come to. They had great playgrounds. They had quarter midget racing, dog shows, all kinds of stuff that kids just loved. Had a great time here, and yep, there was a lot of dirt track racing at night. Some late nights coming back into motorhome.
And so again, Marty and Kim embedded with the 12 and the 38 teams. We're actually going to be listening in to spotter Britt Anderson for the 38 team of Todd Gilliland. He's going to restart 15th. And Britt will take us through the front stretch. And then I was up there with the spotters just a little while ago, and they had mentioned how difficult it is going into turn 1 because the cars are actually going away from them where the main spotters are up on the spotter stand. So that's the one difficulty where you just aren't completely sure if you've got someone cleared when you go into turn 1.
It's such a big racetrack, and they're a long way away from you, and it's hard to see if someone's gaining momentum or you're gaining no momentum on somebody because you're looking at it from behind, and it is a very difficult job for the spotter. The driver has to know that, though. The driver has to know where the spotter really can't see that well.
And so the field coming out of turn number 3. The pace car will put the field back in the hands of Logano up in front, and here's Britt Anderson.
Box. 3, small stack, now good rolling. Cab in front, tight to you, now tight front all the way through. Trying to split mid, don't let the 12 split mid. Still just too wide underneath you. Still there. Top of 3. Top of 3. So top of 3, top of 3. Top of 3. 12 in line with you, still top of 3. 1 coming back bottom. You're clear. 11's going to send it in there. Inside. Still top. Still there. Still there. Bumper 24. Still there. 11. Outdoor. Now even. 5. 1 off you. 1 in front. 42. 2 in front. 5 half off you. Clear to the bottom. Still half off. 1 in front. Still half off. Still there. Still there. 5. Still there.
And again, that's a spotter that is up on the grandstand side, up above the grandstands, spotting for Todd Gilliland. As we saw the 22 of Logano drift way up the racetrack in turn 1 and lost a lot of spots on this restart.
Remember earlier in the race, Ty Gibbs on hot tires that weren't new, he had a similar issue on the restart. Something drivers are going to have to be thinking about. Loose. Back of the car just was not comfortable to him. He had to catch it.
Did a nice job catching it. You know, I know you're frustrated to lose some spots, but that can easily be the end of your day. If you have any sort of issue there and do lose control, it's going to be the fence for sure. This 9 of Chase Elliott pitted at the end of the stage, and he is making hay with the field. Up to 14. Looking ahead to, I mean, this is a huge move, plus 11 spots since the restart. So we talk a lot about strategy, but let's not sleep on the fact great cars and passes make a strategy work, as now you see the 9 continuing to attack. Now he's the lead of his strategy, which is really where you want to be.
Chase Elliott right now in the 13th spot as we take a look at which drivers are on the move. Brought to you by Ashley Furniture. Chase Elliott with 12 spots since the restart. Denny Hamlin 9, William Byron 9, Ryan Preece 6, and Kyle Busch up 3.
Chase Elliott soon to be 13 because he has got a nice position on the 7. I think the 7 almost has to concede the spot. And look at the 9. You know, we wondered how good fresh tires work, and maybe his car's just driving really good, but he wraps the bottom so nicely.
Riding along with the 8, that's the get-go on board of Kyle Busch. And let's listen into the 5 radio of Larson.
What's like the 22 strategy?
Some guys may try to 3-stop the entire race. So that first pit stop lap, then they're going to run it to the short side of the fuel window now under green, which will be roughly 20 laps from right now. That's when the window will open. They'll be on the front side of that, and that'll take them to the very front side of the window in stage 3. We can make it a good bit farther than them right now in this stage, and we're just going to make a good call on pace and lap time compared to the guys around us. Obviously, how much you're able to get through traffic right here, so we'll see.
That's a lot of information right there for Kyle Larson. He was asking about the 22. I believe that was pre-restart. He saw the 22 leading. So, of course, he wanted to know, hey, with his leading the race, what is his plan? And you heard Cliff Daniels explain kind of the different pit windows. It's going to really be a big game of leapfrog here. We're going to see a wave of cars pit, and laps later, another wave of cars pit, and we'll keep you updated as they go. Right now, Keselowski, Jones, Bell continue to lead, and the 9 continues to kind of move up through the field as we see the 23 slide back to the outside of Larson.
Yeah, that was a moment for Bubba Wallace there in the 23. He's already talked about how he is not happy with the handling of his car, and going through the tunnel turn there, it showed. Bubba fighting back on the outside of Kyle Larson as they go down this long front stretch, almost 4,000 feet. As we see the 48 coming up behind the 23. Again, Bubba Wallace fined $50,000 for slamming into the side of the 48 after the race was over in Chicago, showing his displeasure for what had taken place earlier when Alex Bowman was trying to get past him. That was the contact, and NASCAR had referenced that the window nets were down. They had taken their seat belts off, so a very unsafe situation.
Now in NASCAR, you can see what they're doing. If you want to make contact after the race with somebody and show your displeasure, and it's just simple contact, they're not going to do anything. But if you hit somebody and they spin out, if they make contact with the wall, it's a different situation. They're going to hold you responsible, Kim, for the result of your actions.
Yeah, and they held the driver specifically responsible, which allowed the crew and the team just kind of sigh a breath of relief. They didn't get any points docked because of that move by Bubba Wallace. So when I checked in, they said, you know, the cars have been good. They've been fast. The morale is good. Despite that incident last week, we just need to get some luck on our side. Right now, Marty, Bubba Wallace, though, struggling with the handling of that race car.
So, Kim, to the point Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels were making a moment ago, I think, Steve, there's about 3 strategies going on right now. I just checked in with Adam Stevens, Christopher Bell sitting in 3rd. They're among the group that pitted at that caution at lap 15. Adam Stevens told me, Steve, they can go to about 61, 62, maybe 63 would be pushing it too much. That's when they would have to come down pit road. But to Cliff Daniels' point, they have about 20 laps before they got to come to pit road.
Yeah, all they need to do is make sure they run far enough that they can get to the end of stage 2 without needing gas again. They only want to stop one time in the stage. That's kind of the magic here. Not to mention, don't get far enough behind Brad Keselowski that you go a lap down. Not an issue for Jones, Bell, Buescher up front. But there are other cars. Our embedded car of the 38 of Gilliland, I'm looking at him all the way back at 32nd. He's on this strategy, and at 16 seconds behind, you know, his window of opportunity is closing because now you'll start going a lap down when you come to pit road.
Side-by-side action here. Austin Cindric in the 2 was on the inside. Tyler Reddick in the 45 on the outside. Bowman right there behind Cindric. Pretty good run here for LaJoie as he tucks in behind the 24 of Byron, but Brad Keselowski has got a 2.5 second lead over second place Eric Jones. NASCAR Drive, that's your live race day companion. You can follow your favorite drivers with access to their in-car cameras, or you can even choose from alternate camera angles and customize your streaming experience. Just visit NASCAR.com/drive or download the NASCAR mobile app. There's a great shot of this triangular racetrack, and I want to thank Shady Rays for our aerial coverage today. So a couple names that are using a little different strategy here, running up front. Guys like Eric Jones, second place right now.
Yeah, so we still have to see the cycle, but I don't mind where these guys are at. They're going to pit one time, make it to the end of stage 2, give themselves an opportunity. And when you talk about a sleeper, look at his career numbers. 12 starts here. 8 of those 12s, he has finished inside the top 10. So when we talk about a tricky triangle and all the things that can go wrong, Jeff, Eric Jones finding a way to consistently run well.
Yeah, a winner in the Cup Series, multiple-time winner. Over here with this team going to Toyota, it's going to take a little while for them to get up to speed. So they knew they had to get through this year. It would be difficult. 77, Carson, he is, every week we see this. He runs well. He has speed. He's a young driver. Guy is getting it done, making some mistakes, but learning from them at only 21 years old. Here he is with Chase Elliott, the most popular driver and a champion. Cannot get by him.
Yeah, Luke Lambert on the pit box for Hocevar. If I was Luke right here, this sounds crazy. I'd almost be pulling the reins back. This young man, to your point, Jeff, he is a pedal pusher, man. He flies. He has pace. It's just some youthful mistakes. So now, hey, man, let me help you on the pit strategy. You're doing a great job. Try to coach him into getting these good runs to the finish.
And Kim, issue with the 38.
Yeah, well, he fired off very, very loose this run. He said he's so out of the racetrack, and the problems might be a little bit compounded. Take a listen to Todd's radio.
I feel like I slightly bent my right rear toe link when I hit the wall, too. I'm just so mad. Oh, my God.
You're going to see the replay right there. And as Todd talks about the toe link being slightly bent, possibly, how is that going to affect the drive of his race car, Steve?
Well, so basically the toe link, we see them brake and the right rear just kind of flop in and out and lose control of the race car. If you slightly bend it, now you've just changed where that right rear is pointing. It's either pointing a little left or pointed right. So if it's pointed to the right, you're already loose, not good. If it's pointed a little left and you were tight, it's going to drive the car tighter. So Todd already knows the car has changed since he hit the wall. He's associating that with the toe link.
So Steve, with as big as this racetrack is there any chance that they could fix that at some point during the day, make an adjustment, and get themselves back in the ballgame?
So I do think there is enough time under yellow. What I don't know is, do you know which way it's been, or can you reference it? Maybe by car handling, you can take a guess. But you do have enough time under yellow for sure.
Well, and he's not on a damaged vehicle policy or anything like that, so they can take as much time as they need to fix it.
And even if he went on it, as soon as the next lap he completed, reached minimum speed, he'd go off the clock. So maybe, the notes might say he was on the DVP, but he didn't care.
Yeah. Again, riding along with the Goodyear onboard for Gilliland.
And really with Todd this year, those are the kind of mistakes we haven't seen much of, right? I mean, the reason that this has been a career year for him is they've had speed, but also he's managed it well. He's managed the races well. He's done a nice job of getting finishes. They'll take sometimes a 20th place car and finish 15th with it. And that's what you want to see from a young driver. If you can manage races, that's a step it takes some drivers years and years to be able to do. Todd's doing it early in his career.
He'll be the senior driver at Front Row Motorsports starting next year, because Michael McDowell is going to Spire, and then coming in will be Noah Gregson. That announcement happening this last week. And Marty, what's going on with the 12?
Rick, as we're embedded with the 12 team, I want to introduce you to Raymond Fox, who is the car chief for Ryan Blaney. And the Fox family goes way back in racing. It started with his grandfather, Ray Sr., who owned his own team at one point, also worked for Junior Johnson as well. Ray Jr. worked for Robert Yates Racing for years, and then the third generation. That's where he started, Robert Yates Racing as well, Raymond, but he's been at Penske for the last 12 years. And you saw the shot of him a moment ago, and you see him here in a still picture. The fourth generation of the Fox family starts literally today. Justin, his son, is the rear tire changer for Harrison Burton in his first ever race this afternoon. Raymond told me, I'm more nervous than I've ever been in my life to watch my son do a live pit stop for the first time in a Cup Series race. Incredibly, the Fox family has been a part of NASCAR since 1955. It looks like that streak will continue for a long time to come. And Jeff, there might not be a better example of how NASCAR is a family sport than the Fox family.
Yeah, it's so committed and it made an impact on the sport. They work hard. They've been very innovative. It's part of what makes NASCAR great. Racing on the track. Blaney and Busch. Blaney with his hand up in there. Hey, man, I had the outside of you. I was coming around you. You took that away from me. That's Blaney, though. He's expressive. You know, he gets a little angry. He gets it out. He's okay.
We've seen Parker wear the open mic in the Xfinity Series race. Now, I'd like to see a Blaney open mic.
Well, you remember Phoenix a year ago when he was winning the championship, but he had Ross Chastain in front of him and couldn't go by him. He was so frustrated. And obviously, we saw a little bit of frustration there. Oh, problems for Ross Chastain. And he's going to get into the wall. So the one of Chastain has had a problem. You see the right rear is wrinkled on that. It looks like that happened prior to this most recent run-in with the wall, but the caution has come out. It's the third caution of the day. He was running 25th.
Like the right front broke. Bring it back down pit road and take a look at it.
So we talked playoffs at the beginning of the show, Dale Jarrett and I on the front of the grid, and we talked about, you know, how would Chastain and Buescher be feeling about potential new winners, and I made the statement that it was impossible for somebody to point their way in because history would say it's never even been close. Only 3 points have been made up from now to the playoffs. But let me put a big asterisk. You also have to understand the situation. With the one having issues, if you're Bubba Wallace in the 23, I know he doesn't like how his car's running. But, man, I think this is information I would give my driver to try to motivate him to manage this thing. That's a big shot for the one, Jeff.
Yeah, he was out of the groove when he came into the picture, obviously just sideways and trying to catch it.
That's turn 3.
Wow. That thing, when he's turning the car, trying to save it, the right rear hooks the wall. When it does, it just slings the right front into it. And, yeah, I'm with you, Steve. That is big damage.
Marty.
And Rick, an interesting comment from Ross Chastain just a moment ago as you see him coming down pit road. Steve, he said he lost steering before he lost the right front. You got to wonder if there was contact even before that. And yeah, you can see that right front definitely not tracking the right way for Ross Chastain, who was near the cut line. This is going to be big for this one team.
Wow, that's a big, we have to see exactly what happened, losing steering before actually making contact. If you look on the grid, you know, Keselowski on the graphic, Jones, Bell, they'll all be coming to pit road. The question mark I have is Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. If they are truly committed to only stopping 2 more times in this race, this isn't really one of them. They haven't run long enough. So we will see if they decide to pit or not pit here when pit road opens. It's going to be a tough decision for these crew chiefs.
That's a tough situation. I've been in that before where you drive down in the corner and you have power steering, everything's fine, and then you lose it. And what happens is that you can't turn the car. You get yourself in a situation where, oh my goodness, the car won't turn.
So you're thinking like entering 3,
yes,
lose the power steering, and then you end up spinning out because of that.
Well, because he's out of the groove.
Makes sense.
Right?
Okay.
He gets in there and it won't, he puts effort into the wheel like you normally would. The car doesn't turn, more effort, but you're out of the groove. And now you're into all the dirt and all the stuff that you don't have any grip, and then the car turns around and then you hit the wall, Marty.
And Ross Chastain is done for the day. They're looking at the damage on the right front, Steve, and they have decided it is too much. They cannot fix it, so they're going to push this car to the garage. 6 races left in the regular season, including this one. This one's going to be a big impact on the playoffs.
Yeah, now the question is, can Bubba Wallace overcome this? Can he find something in his car that'll make him more comfortable? Chastain's going to run 36th, right? Gregson's already out of the race and 37th. I know what you mean, Jeff, because you know that lane assist? My car has that. I'm not good at using my blinker, and it kind of wants to steer itself at times. That's like losing steering as I go in the corner.
Unfortunate end for Ross Chastain here at Pocono. Well, you can join NASCAR's free rewards program and start earning points that turn into member-only rewards. You can earn points every time you check in for a race, either from home or at the track. Visit NASCAR.com/fan rewards. Plenty of fans here enjoying today's race. A lot of different vantage points. We see a lot of fans up on top of campers in the infield. Riding along with Breastreet on board of Austin Dillon. They've had a brake issue today.
Not the track you want brake issues at. Just so fast into these corners.
Embedded with the 12 team. Right along with Verizon on board of Ryan Blaney.
So pit road is open this time around, Jeff. Keselowski, Jones, the front of the field, I think we know what's happening. I just have a few question marks. It would be really hard not to kind of follow the masses on pit road here and get everybody squared up.
Kim.
And teammates Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski dealing with the same issue. They both said struggling in 3, specifically middle off. They both need a tiny bit more turn. You see Chris top left, Brad top right. They're going to get 4 fresh Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, and a slight air pressure adjustment. They'll wait on fuel, Marty.
Kim, this is very interesting. Most of the cars coming to pit road, very few stayed out. Christopher Bell said go halfway back on the last adjustment.
Right, Marty, in the bottom right of your screen there, Eric Jones pits from 2nd place. They will have to wait on fuels. You see most of the field come down, as you mentioned. A lot of 2 tires and a lot of short fuelers here. As Denny Hamlin will win the race off pit road.
And a little strategy there with the 2-tire stop for quite a few teams. Problems with the steering for the one of Ross Chastain. Slams into the wall in turn 3. And he now is the 2nd car out of the race here at Pocono. NBC Sports coverage of NASCAR on USA is brought to you by Ashley, for the love of home. Shop in-store or online. Liberty Mutual Insurance, only pay for what you need. And by Straight Talk Wireless. Kim, I'm not sure the 38 team's going to be asking you back to be embedded as soon as you give this information.
Yeah, they did have a penalty during that stop, but we know driver Todd Gilliland was born into a racing family, but so was his fueler, Christopher Webb. Chris's dad, also named Chris, is a former jackman and gasman, spending 17 years going over the wall on pit road. You see Chris Sr. and Chris Jr. right there. And so it was only natural that Christopher followed in his father's footsteps, and now the two actually, they get to work together. Front Row Motorsports uses their Penske Alliance to fill the pit crew roster. That photo you're seeing right there, the little guy holding the flag, that is Christopher Webb, the fueler from the 38 car. And so Chris Sr. works for Team Penske in the pit department, helping build the jacks. So these two, they work side by side week after week. And Chris told me it's always been a dream of his growing up to work in NASCAR. So when he got done with college, he gave it some serious thought, and he was able to land a job in the sport. He said his dad had always told him he could do whatever he wanted. He said, but I do think he was very proud with the decision I made to be on pit road in terms of my career.
Well, that's such a great story and some awesome photos. You see the gas man right there working on his dry brakes. He sprays that silicone to help the seal, because this is really a pretty complicated system in general. So if we take a look at our Toyota virtual car, we can kind of break down how these gas cans work. We talk so much about fuel mileage. Well, the first thing you have to do is fill them up. Remember the old school, back when Chris Sr. was a gas man, there was a catch can guy back there venting the air. No longer have a catch can man. So if we cut this apart and we plug the fuel can in, when we engage the fuel can, you're gonna see these two cones kind of come together. Now the yellow arrows, that's fuel dumping into the race car. The blue arrows, that's air coming out. That's where the catch can man used to come into work. That air goes up into that vent. When the fuel is full, the fuel then fills those blue arrows, fills that clear can, and that's how you know the car is filled. Now the problem is, if you misalign that at all and the fuel gets where the air can be, it's like trying to pour 1 gallon out by flipping it upside down with no vent, Rick. It goes very slow, and that messes up the entire pit stop. Fueling more important than ever here in NASCAR.
And I did want to reference the 38 got caught for speeding. That was the unfortunate news. Parker, what's going on?
Well, Steve, I want to point this out. We've been talking a lot about fuel. We've seen some drivers and teams elect to take 2 tires because they feel like they're not worth any performance. But this is the right front off Eric Jones, showing the cords here. That was just basically 1 full fuel run. So maybe just another addition to all the problems these crew chiefs have in terms of strategy here at Pocono. Maybe some right front tire issues.
So the driver talking, or the crew chief talking, not the driver, Jeff. At least it's the right side, because I imagine anytime you come down pit road, I'll at least get rights.
All right, we're listening in now to Tim Fedowa, who is the spotter for Ryan Blaney.
10 away. 5, ready. Green, all rolling here, 1 in front. Here comes your push. Still half in front. First 2 aren't pushing either. He's on you. Tight when you get there now. All 2x2, mule. Still inside, top of 3, tight, top of 3. Still top of 3. Still top of 3 tight here. 9's gonna push you though, still top of 3. 2 left. 9's off you by 1. Top of 3. 43 on the bottom. You in the 6, bumper clear. 2 wide, half back, clear by 1. A half to the 6. Come inside, 3 wide, clear. All clear by 2. Whatever you need here. 2 to the 6 by himself right now. By 1 in front. You in the 71, clear. By himself by 2 in front, nothing pushing you.
Tim Fedowa, really good spotter, also a good race car driver. He won 4 Xfinity races, won 2 at Nazareth, 1 at South Boston Speedway, 1 in New Hampshire. Kind of that driving career ended, and as soon as it did, he became a spotter, and he is one of the very best.
We actually heard 2 voices there, and some teams are using 2 spotters because of the difficulty of seeing in turn number 1. Dave Nichols, a tire specialist for that team, is subbing as the 2nd spotter.
You got to balance the more accurate vision with 2 people on the radio at the same time, or potentially. Wow. Ooh, yeah, tight race between teammates.
And he bounced up the racetrack as he went through turn 2. That's Elliott in the 9 that's making the pass now on Bowman.
See how intense the battling is back here. You know, we talked about the lead a lot. Josh Berry is leading this race. Remember, he spun earlier. His strategies got him out front, but this back here is chaos. It is hand-to-hand combat.
Most in line. You see the 22 of Logano, though, with Buscher on his outside. 2 Fords fighting for position here as they go down Long Pond straightaway.
You see what Joey's doing? He's putting that right front fender on his left rear quarter panel. That drives air to the spoiler of the car on the outside and slows him down. Had he not done that, the 17 would have cleared him, and it would have been an easy pass. Now the 7 making it 3 wide, that's Pocono. If you don't complete a pass, both of you are slower on corner exit. The guys behind you will take advantage of it. Now, Logano says, all right, you're on the bottom of me. I'm going to stay on the outside of you. I've got the draft with the car in front of me and clear you back. That is Pocono to a T right there. You have to complete that pass. If not, someone's going to come from behind and get you.
Interesting kind of cat and mouse game happening at the front of the field. We have the 4 of Josh Berry last on pit road at 33. Hamlin at 55. Gibbs behind him at 27. As much as you want to lead, I do believe there's some advantage. The 4 and the 54 might need to find a couple laps of fuel savings. So if you do see the 4 get passed, and I think the 54 is doing it behind the 11 now, using that draft to try to save a little gas, maybe reduce the number of shifts as well.
William Byron tucked in behind the 54 of Gibbs. Again, Gibbs starting on pole, fell back in the first stage. Berry up front. He's now led 4 laps and trying to add to that, but he has Denny Hamlin right behind him, running in his shadows.
I hate to see this duo getting split up. I just think Josh Berry and Rodney Childers are kind of finding their own right here halfway through year 1. You start to see them cycle to the front of these races a little bit. Both have opportunity next year, but I would have loved to see if they could stay together.
Chase Elliott out of line as we see Martin Truex Jr. going to lose a spot to Chase. Marty.
A moment ago, Chris Gabehart told Denny Hamlin, we are good to the end of the stage. Those you're racing around are not. And then he gave him some very important information. Listen in.
Long way in the stage. Ultimately, you're not racing the guy in front of you, but getting ahead of him, getting on will be helpful.
So, Jeff, how much information do you want on a day when strategy is all over the map? If you're Chris Gabehart, how key was that information to Denny Hamlin?
Every driver's different. Some drivers just want to know very little. Denny, I think, is one of those guys that has ultimate trust in Gabehart as crew chief. They talk a lot. They challenge each other a lot. So I think Gabehart wants Hamlin in on the strategy. He wants both of those guys to be thinking the same thing. This is what I'm thinking, Denny. This is what I need you to do. And Denny will buy in. Denny has full trust.
Very analytical duo.
Yes.
Right, they talk about their rating system. They have their own, almost their own language in how they look at these races.
You mentioned the duo of Josh Berry and Rodney Childers and the successes that they're trying to enjoy here as the second half of the season will close out their relationship together. Josh Berry, a lot of things going on in his life. They're actually expecting their second child in October. So wife Jenny is looking forward to that addition to the family, but a lot of things changing. As we mentioned before, Josh Berry will be with Wood Brothers Racing in 2025. Looking back here at Martin Truex Jr. in front of Blaney. Those two running in the 6th and 7th position. Chase Elliott up in the top 5. There's a new leader in the Great Getaway 400 presented by visitpa.com, and it's a familiar number and face up front. He's won here 7 times before. Here's Denny Hamlin up front.
Yeah, Denny had been all over the back of the 4-car. Barry, right there, you see how much center of the corner speed he's able to roll. Josh, just no defense of that. I think Josh smartly gives the spot up. He could have fought a little bit harder, but to Steve's point earlier, maybe a little bit of opportunity to save a little bit of fuel.
You look at the longest streaks of races led, and Denny Hamlin now being up front puts it at 10 straight. The only one better, Richard Petty. He's tied to Jeff Gordon and Darrell Waltrip with 10.
Good battle right here. Chase Elliott trying to get by Ty Gibbs on the bottom. Ty hand out the window. Normally that means you're going to concede the spot, but that's not what happened right here.
It might not have been a wave. There might have been another hand signal there. We take a look at the Xfinity fastest lap. It was turned by Ty Gibbs on lap 3. Averaged around here at over 167 miles an hour.
I saw the hand too, Jeff. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with these two, but it has stacked them up behind them for sure.
Marty.
Rick Ryan Blaney sitting in 6th. Let's talk to his crew chief, Jonathan Hassler. So you're among the group, Jonathan, that pitted at lap 55. What's the play from here?
I think our Wabash score's pretty good here. I think everybody's about 2 stops away, so certainly just going to try to minimize pit road and time on pit road and get ourselves out front.
Would the theory be, with everyone who pitted at lap 55, that the final stop of the day would then in turn be shorter for you guys, and that would give you an advantage?
Yeah, we certainly have an advantage over a few guys that have stayed out. Need to take a little bit more fuel.
There you go. So, Jonathan, playing the strategy here. I can tell you all these screens here, Steve, going off with strategy everywhere. SMT right here, a lot to process for this race team. 2 more stops left for everybody.
Jonathan Hassler with perhaps the best non-answer I've ever heard. Well, everybody's going to stop a couple times, and some are going to take a little bit more fuel than others. I mean, that is so well done. And the reason is because he knows everybody's listening. So what he means by that, it's very simple, right? Everyone only needs to stop twice, but when do you do it, and do you choose to stop an extra time? Because we know that in 25 laps the stage will end, which really changes this plan. We have Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs. They're close to running on fuel. We're talking just a handful of laps away, but guys like Ryan Blaney and really the majority of the field were all on lap 55. So they can make it to the end of the stage if they so choose. So I actually think the big decision for these guys are going to come with like 3 to go in that stage, how you do it there. First thing, though, is can Berry and Gibbs stretch their tanks far enough to get to that window? Remember, it's like a road trip. If you're driving across country, you know, you want to make sure you go far enough into the road trip that when you fill up with gas, you don't have to stop again, right? You want to be able to make your destination. That's really this whole strategy for Gibbs and Berry. They are trying to get to a magical number. That way they have confidence they only have to stop one more time.
So that's the strategy side. There are 2 cars right now that are out of the race. Noah Gragson was early in the first stage, and then early in stage 2, it was Ross Chastain who ended up out of the race. We see the pass here by Blaney. Just moments ago, Kim caught up with Ross.
Ross Chastain out of the care center. Walk us through that incident.
I just spun out, Kim. Yeah, just spun out. Not much more to say for our Busch Light Peach Chevy. Just too much gas and hit the wall.
It's Ross Chastain. This certainly complicates things as it currently stands. Looks outside the playoff picture.
Yeah, we heard he said something about power steering, and I thought, well, maybe that had something to do with it. But listen to Ross Chastain right there. That had nothing to do with it. He just simply lost control of his car.
Austin Cindric on pit road now. Steve, is this a strategy that we're seeing?
Yeah, he's in that same group as Berry and Gibbs that I mentioned. He was a little further back, but now he's heading in front of you, Marty.
Yeah, he was the furthest back of those who needed to come here definitely in this stage. They were running 11th at this time, at the time when they came to pit road here. So that kind of gives you an indication of when Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs will have to come to pit road as well. They're going to have to wait on fuel here for Austin Cindric. And again, one more stop for this team.
So now that you see where the cars are, these guys are heading into 3 right here. There's your leader on the front stretch. The 2 leaving pit road. I think we'll be able to get up in front of the 11 of Denny Hamlin. It's a good execution. No other takers yet. And this is that part of the race when we talk about, hey, how much do the drivers want to know, and even the crew chief. You know, there's still a lot. We haven't got to halfway in the race yet.
Right.
Well, and we talked about Cindric just rolling off pit road. It's qualifying laps. When I get put in that position where I know I have to be perfect, the leader's behind me, I have new tires, that's an opportunity for me just to go run as fast as I can. You can't make mistakes, but you have to push. You have to be making as much lap time as you can to try to get away from him.
And Steve, they have to pack these things completely full, correct? Because you had told me earlier 40 to 42 laps. If I add those two together and he only does one more stop, he's still 2 laps short of getting to 160.
So they know they're going to get yellows at the end of the caution. They're already banking and saving in. But for sure, remember the dry break we talked about, you have to be full. That's the assumption, and that's really what makes the pit of your stomach feel bad, is you know it's so easy to get an air bubble. We're talking one big, tall coffee, right? 12 ounces, 16 ounces. That's all it takes to completely ruin your strategy. So that is your concern in these situations.
I mean, Byron is losing a spot to Brad Keselowski here as the 6 goes by. Keselowski up to 7th. Martin Truex Jr. still holding on to 6th.
And Hamlin doing a nice job, because remember, you have to be close enough to the leader to pit under green. So as he stretches out to a 3-second lead, he's kind of shutting the opportunity, Jeff, for guys mid-pack to pit before the end of the stage. Remember, we saw that in stage 1, where Hamlin's out there going as fast as he can for 21 more laps. He's trying to shut those guys off in like 10th, 11th, 12th. You're going to be so far behind me, you can't pit without losing a lap.
Yeah, that's the advantage in having a fast race car, Steve. You can set the tempo. You can make everybody have to match yours, and a fast race car is a major advantage. You see Ty Gibbs coming on pit road.
Parker.
And Steve, you called it exactly on the number. It was lap 74 when they said they come to pit road. It was really close, though, and tight. And how do I know that? For the last 2 laps, they've been telling him to keep an eye on the fuel pressure and just flip his switch if he needed to. And to come that lap, they pushed as far as they could the lap 74. Just too loose inside that car, handling-wise, as they try to find themselves with their second to last stop here for Ty Gibbs, the 54 team. You see an adjustment in the right rear, and they will wait on the fuel here, filling as much as they possibly can.
Absolutely, Parker. It's all about that gas man right there. You see wait, driver doing a nice job. Gas man staying plugged in as long as he can.
We'll need to see Josh Berry here soon, right?
Yeah, he had a couple laps more fuel than Gibbs. So I think he's probably going to try to run maybe 1 or 2 more. You mentioned, you know, it's really, really close. Well, we could have overtime. We could have other things. So he's going to try to run those extra. Hand out the window by Chase Elliott. Appreciating the help off 3.
So if you're at home and you just heard Steve talk about we might have overtimes, 77 of 160. Why is he talking about the end of the race? Because the strategy you play now dictates what you can do at the end of the race. And that's how these crew chiefs have to think. They can't think about right now. They got to be thinking about what you're going to be doing, you know, 100 laps from now. That's how they have to think.
And you know the worst part, Rick, is when you get it wrong in strategy. Just like the driver knows if he maybe made a mistake, well, when you get the strategy wrong, the crew chief, you're normally the first to know, and everybody else on the team's kind of excited, and you're sitting there going, no, I've messed this up. I'm on the wrong lap, or we don't have enough fuel.
And also from a driver's standpoint, when you're out here to see Josh Berry hitting pit road,
now you just can't have a mistake, Jeff, right? Don't speed, no penalties.
No bad pit stops. Everybody has to execute.
And here is Josh Berry during that stop. He was saying just needs to be a little bit more comfortable if he's going to put more wheel in it, a little bit tight. So that's been something he's battled all day long. More pressure on your tires with a slight air pressure adjustment. You see them waiting on fuel under this green and then reminding him not to speed. This is very easy to speed because it's such a long pit road on the front straightaway.
Such a great shot right there. You saw the live fuel come up into that thing. That's the signal. So check it out right here. If the gas man goes over, normally it's all about changing tires. They have changed their whole orchestration of this pit stop. This tire changer, he knows it's not about him. Watch him. He kind of stops. Nope. Fuel man's more important. I'm going to let him go. And then watch right here. Watch this hose. It's most important. That thing has to be full of fuel and solid. No air bubbles. 2 steps. That is an athlete. To take those 2 steps and get that can unplugged, so well done by the 4 car.
And Rodney Childers, the crew chief, he's watching that. He's watching that tube. When he sees that thing fill up, then he's saying go, go, go. And it's an orchestrated It really is. I mean, everything they do is orchestrated. Any mistake by anybody, it doesn't work. But you talk about NASCAR being team sport, that shows you how important it is.
Denny Hamlin out in front. As a matter of fact, only Jeff Gordon has led more laps at Pocono than the guy up front right now. As we take a look at the Toyota driver update and focus a little more on the 11 of Denny Hamlin. And Marty, is there a strategy coming into play of how far he wants to be in front of this field?
Yeah, 13 to go here in stage 2, and an interesting radio transmission a moment ago from Chris Gabehart to Denny Hamlin. Listen in.
All right, Denny, I don't want to force any mistakes on you, but let's go back to hauling ass here. If you have anything in it, I'm good. Let's go.
So what he's trying to do, Steve, is eliminate drivers who could short this stage possibly, so that gap, the delta from the leaders, about 15, 17 seconds. Already, Kyle Larson 15.5 seconds behind. How far could Denny Hamlin put people out of the game, in essence, to be able to short this stage?
And Marty, I think they need enough fuel. I know we talked 15 seconds before the race, but some of these pit stops we've seen it down to like 12 seconds. So look right here on the left-hand side. You have Keselowski and Buescher right about 10 seconds back. So this is what it looks like on the racetrack. What the 11 is trying to do is increase that gap to the 6 car. If he can get that over about 12 seconds, then the 6 cannot pit with 3 to go in the stage. He'll have to stay on the racetrack because they'll go a lap down. Now, if he can go fast enough, maybe he can even eliminate the 19, who's the next guy in the running order. Now, I think at Elliott and Blaney, that would be a long stretch here, but you see the 6 and the 19 racing. Hamlin loves that. Get side by side, guys, for a couple laps. Slow down. Now, if you're the crew chief of these two, you're almost not racing each other. You're racing the leader who's 12 seconds in front. That sounds crazy, but Jeff, if you're my driver, I might say, hey man, we can't give up time to the leader here because I have to help you see the bigger picture of the whole race.
Yeah, that's right. And when Chris Gabehart asked Denny Hamlin, hey, step it up, I need some speed, Denny tried, but he really isn't faster.
Right.
So he was already operating at max capacity. But the advantage in that is, okay, what does your car need to do? Now the crew chief knows he was getting all he could get anyway. And you're right, these guys here, they got to be pushing. They got to be going as hard as they can to get their strategy to work. And more battling on the racetrack. 77 car on the bottom of the racetrack of Hocevar. Oh, wow. That was Gilliland on the outside of him, and Hocevar just came up.
And these two have had some moments over the last 4 or 5 races.
Yeah, and these are the things we talked about Hocevar earlier, about how, you know, he's a young driver, he's aggressive, but these are the things that drivers talk about him, they don't speak favorably, right? And he's racing hard, man. He's a young kid, he's racing hard, he's doing all he can, but those are the things he needs to eliminate moving forward.
I'm okay with that move if we're a couple laps to the finish. I'm squeezing you, Jeff. But, you know, we're not even halfway yet. And that's not the time to kind of run across the 38's front bumper.
And to be fair, like, it's so competitive at this level. I mean, you have to give 100% if you're going to compete at this level. And you can say, well, he's running terrible, he's running 28th. Well, it's difficult in 28th. It is good race cars, good drivers that you're competing against, and you have to be operating at the very limit of your abilities, and when you do that, you're going to cross over them every now and then.
Kim.
And as we continue to be embedded with the 38 car, we talk about racing being a family affair. That rings especially true for Todd Gilliland's Jackman and front tire changer. Courtney and Cameron Edmonds. You see Courtney right there in the blue. You'll see Cameron in a second in the gray suit. They're the only pair of brothers in the Cup Series pitting together on the same team. It was older brother Courtney who got bitten by the NASCAR bug first. He told me it all started with his dad, who's a resource officer in Carrion-C. He ran a camp. They took a field trip to Hendrick Motorsports. He was so impressed, he raved about it, came home, told Courtney he really thought he would be interested, but it wasn't until his senior year of college he gave it a try. Courtney has been in the sport for 7 years, Marty, and then after watching his brother, Cameron, followed suit. This is his first year in the NASCAR Cup Series.
Kim continuing to keep an eye on this battle for fourth. Martin Truex Jr. has it right now, and after winning stage 1, stage 2, the car handling has gone away. Listen in.
All you did with the adjustments earlier is take the back out of the track in the water spots in turn 3. Snappy, but I'm still not turning in 1. All right, well, the adjustments ain't good, because I don't know. I can't go nowhere right now.
Boy, a lot for James Small to digest there. And Parker keeping an eye on what Steve mentioned a moment ago. Steve, it's now 9.4 seconds that Truex is behind his teammate Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, and that's assuming they still want to short the stage. I assume they do, but they're battling that gap to the leader, Denny Hamlin. 8 to go in the second stage at Pocono.
Today's aerial coverage is brought to you by Shady Rays. And a couple more on to pit road. Kim?
Including Chris Buescher stopping before the end of this stage. He said it's really hard and dirty air, just too tight. You saw the fresh Goodyears on there as well as Sunoco fuel.
So it'd be very interesting to see where the 17 blends here. Now, he didn't wait on gas, which is a good decision, but I think he had lost enough time to the 11 that the crew chief was worried about losing a lap, right? If you have a little bit of a slow pit stop or don't get to pit road, great. So we're going to see the 11 of Denny Hamlin, top of the screen, exiting turn 3. We see the 17 leaving pit road, so he's going to have no problem at all. That's because they didn't wait on fuel. Everybody else is in this magical, like, small 1 or 2 lap window. These guys have to come again anyway. There's 69 to go, so they don't have to be completely full of fuel. So for that reason, back to what Marty's saying, maybe the gap is like 15 seconds, right? Because for Buescher, it was no problem. This one makes it so difficult. That gap isn't a guarantee because I don't know if they're going to have a 9-second pit stop, leave on tires, or a 12.5-second pit stop, wait on fuel. For Buescher, they left on tires, and for that reason, he's really good. Now the question is, Keselowski, Truex, Blaney, Elliott, do they come to pit road? And they would probably be coming this time with 3 to go because they don't know what the leader, Hamlin, will do, and he will close pit road with 2 to go.
Here's a look at last week's winner, Alex Bowman, in the 48 in front of Christopher Bell.
Talked to Alex Bowman before the race, and you know, I asked him, that race seemed like a bigger race win than normal. He said, no question, the point in his career, needed a win, and he got it.
Here's Blaney making his way onto pit road. And so he was 3rd and gave up that spot to come to pit road, Marty.
He said handling-wise, building a little bit tighter the longer they ran, especially in turn 3. Jonathan Hassler told him, I'm going to do what I can do to get your track position back. Here is the answer for that. Also, same thing for James Small coming in. You heard all the handling issues for Truex. He said, we really need to work on the long runs. They are going to wait on fuel here, Steve. That's the big thing for the 19 and the 12.
Wait on fuel to try to reduce their final pit stop. This is confidence that they're far enough in front of Denny Hamlin they can do it. The question now is, Denny Hamlin, will he stay out to win the stage? He's exiting turn 3. We see the 19 ending. Okay, so the 11's going to stay out. This will close pit road right here. We see the Truex exit, bottom of the screen. Good math, good execution, very well done by both parties, because if you're the 11, you are going to lose a few spots, but you're going to win a stage. That's a playoff point, assuming you can run 2 laps without an issue. Marty.
And Steve, I talked to Chris Gabehart about this exact situation. He said, if a playoff point is on offer for us, I'm going to take it. And he said, you also have to keep in mind the regular season points battle. We're in the mix for that. And Kyle Larson not having a fantastic day today either, so they could gain some ground on that as well. So these stage points plus that playoff point for Chris Gabehart, too much to pass up here for Denny Hamlin.
I think it's the same for Chase Elliott in the 9. While we don't think about a playoff point, remember, he's in a regular season battle with Kyle Larson. As they run currently, he's only 1 point behind in regular season points. That's why the 9 is thinking, I'm trying to race for that bonus. Parker.
Right, Steven. Throughout this run here, the team in the 9 box has been giving Chase Elliott info as to his gap to Denny Hamlin. At one point, they asked him to go hard and try and run him down. That didn't work, so they backed him off again to use just 5th gear. But throughout this run, they've been comparing him and the 11, telling him where he's beating because they want to set up to try and find where they can find a little bit more speed. I think they've been one of the fastest cars in this race. Although they haven't led a lap, they have carved to the field twice in this race and maybe have to do that in stage 3 here.
Spent some time with Alan this week in the garage area. Man, he is a cool customer. He's just sitting in there working. Chase comes in. I excused myself as they were getting ready to go through data, but he just, you know, Alan and I worked together for years, and he's the same guy I knew 10 years ago. He's just super analytical, very methodical. He had a whole list of things he was ready to go over and show Chase before practice. No wonder that they find success together.
Here's an interesting statistic. The 7-time winner, Hamlin, this is the first stage he's ever won at Pocono, and he wins stage 2. So Denny Hamlin grabbing another playoff point as Chase Elliott will finish 2nd in stage 2. Keselowski, Byron, Eric Jones. Hoping that they're going to hang on to those positions for top 5. And then Larson, Bowman, Bell, Logano, and Reddick rounding out the top 10 in stage 2. Stage 2 is complete under caution. The 4 pit stops are about to get underway. You're watching the Great Getaway 400 presented by visitpa.com. And this is when the field will bunch back up, but there are multiple strategies that are in play. We're going to see a lot of cars make their way onto pit road now. This group, who for the most part everybody came on lap 55, right around there, or 57, they're all making their way onto pit road. Kim.
Including Brad Keselowski, top left. He says the car's gotten so tight it's hard to turn down. Feels like he drove the right front off the car, but he said the straight speed is incredible. They'll take fresh Goodyears and have to wait on fuel, Marty.
Could it be Pocono win number 8 for Denny Hamlin? He said he was getting loose through turn 3. They need to work on the late run. They're going to wait on fuel to make this next stop shorter, Parker.
Chase Elliott was told you're beating the 11 in turn 1. You're losing to him in turn 3. He said, I need more stability on the exit turn 3. They will wait on fuel the 9. William Byron, bottom right of your screen, just lacking stability throughout all 3 corners in that 24 car. He will also be waiting on fuel as we see the 45 Tyler Reddick will win the race off pit road.
2-tire stop there for Gilliland. Remember, he came in earlier in stage 2. Reddick first off pit road.
Brick out 400! It's the brick, baby!
Racing in Indianapolis on the big track is important for us.
I think it's going to give it that big event feel of the Brickyard again.
When I think of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I think of heroes winning and getting to kiss the bricks.
I wish I could put it in words. Today's been my entire life.
The only 5-time winner of the Brickyard 400.
A lot of top name guys have won that race before.
I've never seen such a thing in my life, Kyle Busch.
To come here and win is a huge honor.
It's not another race. We're in Indy.
Back on one of the most historic racetracks in the world, that is Indianapolis next weekend. And Saturday on USA, Countdown to Green at 3 o'clock, Xfinity Series Racing at 3:30. Then Sunday on NBC, Countdown to Green at 2, and Cup Series Racing at 2:30. We'll be embedded with Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe next Sunday.
Back on the oval, I tell you, when you walk into that facility, it's a feeling like no other. We are guests to that racetrack. History has been made there with Indy cars, open wheel racing. I was fortunate to run the very first Brickyard 400, and what enthusiasm, what excitement. And I am looking forward to watching this car, this new car, race at Indianapolis. I think it has a chance to be a much better race because of the design of the car from an aerodynamic standpoint. I think it's going to give drivers more options than they've ever had before there. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Pretty cool. You finished 19th in that very first race, the Brickyard 400. Marty.
Rick, after winning stage 2, Denny Hamlin will restart 16th. We'll see what he does here on the choose. Chris Gabehart explained to him a moment ago, listen, we have more fuel than everybody else. We will gain that time back on this next stop because we'll be shorter than everybody else. Meanwhile, Kyle Larson gained a couple spots here on pit road, and Cliff Daniels explained to him how they were able to gain that track position.
Think that much more fuel because we were so slow?
Basically, we didn't pack it. We're like right there at it, so maybe just barely short of full, and I'm saying barely. And I think they waited to fully pack their cars. We went off of my watch time.
Okay.
So, Steve, I just asked Cliff Daniels about that. He said, we, in essence, split the full fill. We did half here. We'll do half at 120-ish when we come to pit road for the final time today. But the 11 decided to do it all here, and that should make their final stop shorter, in theory.
Well, so here's really the situation. When we take the green, we're going to see 60 to go in this stage. Everyone in the entire field is going to have to make a pit stop, but the timing of that pit stop is going to be very different. And the amount of time on pit road is going to be very different. So I like what the 11 of Denny Hamlin has going if we have a caution or the field is bunched up. But I think we're going to see people like Ty Gibbs, who was last on pit road at like lap 75, right? So that car right there, he'll pit at like lap 118. So I think what's going to happen is that will open the window. Then the question is, when do you come after lap 118? How many tires do you take, and how much fuel do you need? We hear all these radios, but the only people who really know how much fuel they have in their car is each race team. We're really in the nuance. Unless they absolutely filled it up here like 11 of Denny Hamlin, we're not exactly sure the quantity of the rest because we don't know how much they filled it throughout the day.
And we'll remind you, they don't have fuel gauges. So that's based upon weighing the fuel cans. The fuel man saying that's how much we got in these cars. 2 by 2 as we get ready for the start of stage 3, the final stage here at Pocono. Buscher, Barry making up row 1. There's that 3 and 4 wide we were expecting as they come into turn 1. Very tight and close calls there.
That car on the outside is Todd Gilliland. He stayed out and only took 2 tires. He was running about 24th. He came out and restarted 9th.
Big block by Truex on Ryan Blaney, forcing him to the middle. That puts Truex on the bottom, and he's going to race Blaney into the corner.
Josh Berry's going to lose 2 spots there. He'll fall back to 4th, and he's going to lose 4th also now as Larson's looking to his inside.
Things are getting aggressive now. You can see nobody's giving anybody any room whatsoever. All the strategies Steve has talked about, it doesn't matter if you don't take advantage of these restarts and either gain more track position, Steve, or get or protect what you got.
Yeah, you see right there the 45 of Reddick made a big move on the front stretch. Hamlin back here mired in traffic. Buscher, Blaney, Truex shortening the stage, pitting before the end of the stage, have given them track position. 59 to go. They're trying to use it.
Buscher with a 1.5 second lead already over Blaney as they go through the tunnel turn. Truex Jr., Larson, Keselowski, Barry has fallen back to 6th. Ty Gibbs starting on pole, now 7th. Reddick, Elliott Logano in the top 10. Reddick once again getting out of line and trying to get by that 54, and an aggressive move by Chase Elliott in the 9 as he ducks to the inside of Reddick.
Now Chase Elliott stuck on the bottom. Everybody on the outside knows that they're going to try to use the draft to get alongside him. See the 45 car? Reddick actually gave him some space here. That's Logano, I'm sorry. Logano is focused right now. Is trying to lift a little bit early right here. Let them get away and now accelerate. Now have forward momentum on corner exit because they're too wide. They're going to create a big draft. Try to use that draft. Try to get a big pull down this front straightaway.
He was able to shift in 5th a little before the start-finish line. Take a look at the progressive telemetry. Over 194 miles an hour we saw out of Logano as he was entering turn 1.
Now imagine Austin Dillon, who's been reporting brake trouble. Can you imagine going 190 miles an hour and not sure if the brake pedal is going to be there every time?
See how fast he goes through the tunnel turn. Almost 190 there. 187 slows down to 142. 142 miles an hour, and you're making a left-hand turn. Yeah. 90-degree left-hand turn.
2 extreme bumps on top of that.
Logano back out on the stretch, front stretch. Buescher still with a 1.5-second advantage over Blaney.
I love this shot right here. Right on the surface of the racetrack. Plus, I love this, Jeff, because I can just visualize the rear tires. Like right here in the 4, you see him off the pace. You can almost see the rears kind of working back and forth. He didn't have the security he needed.
Chris Buescher again has Ryan Keselowski as his spotter this week. And we heard Kim report before the race as a big move here by Logano. As Buescher's out front, they said if they go into the Olympic break, which is after next week, if they go into the Olympic break and have it won, it won't be a break. There's no vacation. There's no taking those 2 weeks off. They've got to focus on how they can secure a spot in the playoffs.
See Denny Hamlin, he has now been able to catch this groove. This is a great shot. Shows you how fast they're going.
There's Reddick trailing after Gibbs. Those two running 6th and 7th. Gibbs with the advantage. Look back to the 9. Chase Elliott, he's behind them about a second back. Strategy, it's coming into play. We'll see if Chris Buescher can play it correctly. right at the surface of the Pocono Raceway, riding along with Chris Buescher. And he is out front. He's won here before. Buescher won back in 2016. But only one time has he been to victory lane here at Pocono. And then it's going to be a question of, we see a little bit of debris on the, looks like the hood pin of the 4 of Josh Berry. The question is going to be, how long do they have to sit on fuel or wait on fuel when they do come to pit road? Steve, are we expecting potentially inside of 10 laps we might see somebody come
I think
for the final stop?
Yeah, 118, basically the window opens. That's 42 to go. And then it's a little bit of a chess game. Everybody's going to start showing their cards, how much fuel they need, how valuable they think tires are. All right, so Rick, basically this is how I look at this final stage, right? There's 3 stages to this race, but where we're at right now is somewhere in here, right? We're early in the stage. 118 it opens. Now a lot of stuff happened downstream. Tires, fuel, where you're at. No doubt in my mind, Gibbs is going to come right at 118. The 4 car is going to come right at 118. But in this window between 118 and 138, and I think on the earlier side, you're going to see a big wave of cars. Buescher's last pit stop was fast, so I think he has to wait on fuel. Blaney, Truex, Keselowski had longer last pit stops, so I think they're going to be short on fuel. So here you go, Buescher and Blaney. If you look at their pit time, Buescher has the lead because of an 8.8 second pit stop. Great work. Blaney, 12.6. That's not a bad stop. That's more fuel. So now with Blaney being 1.4 seconds behind Buescher, he's thinking, on pit road, I'm going to play a game of leapfrog, and I'm going to pass you. Now, I love Blaney. He'd love to drive up and pass him. But if you're this 12 team, you are thinking, man, I might be able to pass him on the pit stop as we see the 4 go really long in his box, Kim.
Really long. They're going to have to push him back. This is going to ruin what was a planned stop. There was no issue with Josh Berry. You can hear the collective sigh of just disappointment from Rodney Childers on the radio. So this just is a complete disaster on what was likely a different strategy than we had for the 4 team of Josh Berry.
He had a mistake getting into his pit box, sliding through it. The rule is you have to put the car back in the pit box before you can service it. But the reason they got to pit road so early is he was falling through the field. He had lost about 12 spots since that restart. Everybody was ganging up on him and just getting by him, so he had to try to get on pit road and then made the mistake. You got to have a good handling car. You cannot make mistakes if the strategy is going to work out.
And if everything would have been fine there, Steve, and they would have got it completely full, he still couldn't have made it to the end unless maybe he was saving fuel on every lap.
Saving a bunch, maybe hopefully getting some yellows. But Jeff, to your point about falling through the field, it is like a battle out there. I mean, these moments side by side, these two, the 38 and Hocevar, we've seen contact once already. I don't think they're done. This is off turn 3. They split John Hunter. They're still side by side. The funniest thing, Rick, is we talk a lot about, look at this tight squeeze right here of Gillen. Great work. We talk a lot about the 5 and the 11 running next to each other so much. It's shocking as you look through the field how many cars run next to each other for a majority of the race. And I think that's what you see late in the season. You see the Bubba Bowman thing last week after the race. You know, that's a lot of frustration built up over the whole year.
There's Haley in the 51. Haven't talked a lot about him as he is just clearing the 38 of Todd Gilliland. Bubba Wallace and Austin Cindric in the 2. Right behind them, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in that 47.
So Bubba Wallace and this race team, they've done a nice job of making their car better throughout this race. They were struggling earlier. Why does that matter so much? Remember, Ross Chastain in that 1 car, he wrecked early. Bubba Wallace is the first car out of the playoffs currently. He needs to take advantage of this day from a point standpoint. They were running in the mid-20s. He now is running about 16th. If they can continue making gains on this race car, they could make a large point gain to help them try to make the playoffs.
Coming in, Bubba Wallace was 45 points behind Chris Buescher, behind that 16th place car. Now the 16th place car is Ross Chastain, and he's only 33 points behind them. So Bubba Wallace making a little gain here because of the issues that others have had today. Chris Buescher out in front. Caution has come out. It's Todd Gilliland who got into the wall. Not sure if it was a tire that went down or maybe a brake rotor. Let's listen.
He's trying to get the car slowed down, and light tap of the wall here. Not a lot of damage from that, but what caused this? If a rotor exploded,
he just shifted and went across the start-finish line when we started hearing that.
Yeah, well, that, I mean, it's just obviously something in the right front. So if a rotor exploded, that would be the end of your day. It does so much damage.
Okay, Steve, we've talked so much about strategy. Now it seems like it's going to fall into the pit crew's hands of getting the guys off pit road, because can everybody make it after this stop?
Well, everybody is uncomfortably the same distance short. If we assume they can go 42, it opens next time around. They'll be within a lap. I think everybody will be able to save enough to find a lap. The real question, you know, is you're going to have to be full. So, you know, you have Chris Buescher, who I think he needs a little bit more fuel than Blaney, Truex, Keselowski. I think they're going to be pretty fast on pit road. Remember Hamlin's decision to put all that fuel in under the last caution. I thought it was really putting him behind. He was almost 11 seconds back. I didn't see him making that up, right? But now he could come down in here, and if he just needs, you know, he's going to need less fuel than some in front of him, so he's going to gain spots. The question is, how many spots does he gain? Now, 2 or 4 tires really just comes down to how much fuel you need, right? Fuel's dominating everything here. It's not tires. So if it takes 9 seconds to change tires, and you need 9 seconds worth of fuel, it's a pretty simple answer. But if you only need 5 seconds worth of fuel, maybe you'll judge 2 tires. So it's going to be a real jumbled up set of pit stops, but it's not just because it's, quote, a bad stop. This is kind of paying the piper. You know, you can kick your taxes down the road all you want. At some point you have to pay. Well, the fuel tax is coming due for some of these teams.
Will they go by the watch, or will they go by the gas man?
Oh, I think right here with 44 to go, every single gas man. Remember that dry brake? Remember that clear hose? Every gas man wants to see a solid stream of fuel in that clear hose. This thing has got to be full. We are 2.5 to 5 miles outside their comfort zone.
We saw the 38 team pushing that car back to the garage. That means they're done for the day. Must have been a brake rotor explosion that it blew up down the front straightaway. And when they blow apart, Steve, it just rips through everything. It does tons of damage. So
that aluminum wheel doesn't really have a chance against that steel brake rotor.
And it will scare you to death. When that thing explodes inside that car, it's a noise like you've never heard.
All right, here they come. Now, Chris Buescher leads the field onto pit road and into the hands of the crews. Kim.
And crew chief Scott Graves told Chris Buescher top left that he feels like they're going to be a little bit short, but this forced their hand. They had to pit. Chris saying he was tighter when he picked up the pace. It's 4 tires. They're going to wait on fuel. Brad Keselowski also taking 4. He said he felt like he could tell a difference with 4 tires, Marty.
Ryan Blaney said, I lose all my time in turn 3. The last adjustment hurt more than it helped. Also on pit road, Martin Truex Jr., he said the adjustments we made have not helped the car at all. He said turn 3 is our biggest area of concern. I'll take anything over there to help me. A lot of 2-tire stops here, Rick, and a few teams gaining some spots, including Kyle Larson, who gains 4.
4 spots for Larson, 6 for Hamlin. Bowman grabs 8 spots. This restart's going to be great. When you're trying to get a little too much on pit road, you get caught. And these 4 all got caught for speeding in the same section, section 7 on pit road, Steve.
Yeah, the 5 of Larson, the 9 of Elliott, the 54 of Gibbs, the 99 of Swartz. Let's take a look at pit road. You mentioned section 7. Well, it's the very small section just past the start-finish line, kind of right here. That is section 7. It's a very short section, and when they checked their tax earlier in the race, we heard that, hey, everybody was closer in that section. Sometimes it's the distance, the angle of the lines. It seemed like everybody had adapted okay. We've had a ton of pit stops. We've had a couple penalties. The 38 and another car got caught earlier, but now, Jeff, when everything was on the line, 4 guys get caught in that same section.
Yeah, let me show you why that happened. See that? 42 to go. You got to get all you can. You're pushing everything to the edge. And, you know, you're talking about maybe a 1/10 of a second, the difference between speed and not. So here they come down pit road.
Yeah, they're going to come down pit road and top their fuel off. Here's the thing that's really going to blow your mind for Chase Elliott, Rick. 92 races. Oh. It had been 92 races since he had spent on pit road. I mean, that's nearly 3 complete seasons.
You can see they're putting left side tires on. They had done just right for track position. May as well put 4 on now.
Now they're technically, this is going to sound silly, they're technically under penalty as well for speeding and pitting because pit road's closed at 1 to go, but they don't care because they're already at the back of the field. Yeah, so I love the idea of left side tires and at least another little shot of fuel.
Yeah, under caution, if you pit the car serving a penalty, it's the tail end of the longest line, right. So that's where you're starting anyway. It's a different rule under green, but under caution, you just go ahead and service the car.
It can't be like double secret probation. You're already in trouble.
Listen into the 5 radio.
By how much? Do you guys know yet?
I don't know, man. It's that section that they, well, we'll talk about it later.
Heard even Cliff Daniels, that section. So they all knew. Now, this is why every race we see them come single file down pit road. We go, why do we do this? We never used to do this. The teams are getting so good with their pit road speed. That was a section of curiosity. Kim.
And those drivers that topped off closer to their fuel number, the drivers that were out and came on lap 117 that did not speed, they're worried about fuel. Take a listen to Chris Buescher's radio.
Is everybody going to have enough fuel? Oh, yeah, I don't know, because we're, like I say, we're short by 3, but it's close enough. We're got to save a lot. I bet everyone's going to try to make it here. The guys that took 2, I don't know. We'll see where it all sorts out here.
So we'll see how this plays out. Looks like it might be another Pocono fuel mileage race.
And Steve, short by 3. That's 7.5 miles. If you're short by 3
between friends. Now this is a good track, though. You can lift early, not shift. There is a track where you can save fuel.
All right, extended aerial coverage of the Great Getaway 400, presented by VisitPA.com, is brought to you by Shady Rays as we come back to the green flag.
Green. No help. He has helped you.
Big run by some of those cars in the back and around into the field. The 8 of Kyle Busch was the one who went down and came back up. Harrison Burton sliding down. It's very close there.
A lot of race cars
like Ryan
caught up in this.
It looked as though the 8 was the one who was initially involved, the 16 of Allmendinger there.
Parker Kligerman and I talked about this before the race. This long straight and as wide as it is gives an opportunity to make it 3 wide, 4 wide, get real aggressive on the entry. The problem is the risk. Is it worth the risk? Because somebody's going to try to block you. Somebody's going to try to take that away from you.
Angrily getting out of this car is Kyle Busch.
Braking.
The winless streak will continue as the AMR safety crew will get him back to the infield care center. There's Ryan Preece. We knew he was involved in the 41. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. climbing out.
Crazy look, didn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, so you're going to see Kyle Busch on the bottom of the racetrack. Then a block from LaJoie. LaJoie gets into him. Kyle Busch blocked him, and then LaJoie just ran into him, to be honest with you. I'm not saying he meant to do it, but either a misjudgment See right there, big block. Then he goes, then LaJoie trying to get back on the racetrack. That yellow line.
There we see him sliding right back in front of the field.
Yeah, all these guys just along for the ride. All right, so you see they're going down the straightaway, right? And everybody's fanned out. Everybody always does this. So you see somebody making a run on you, you make a block, right? And now you got to get back on the racetrack because the corner's coming. Look at the yellow line. If you are below that yellow line, there is no banking there. That's the apron of the racetrack. LaJoie saw that coming. He's like, I got to get to the right to get back on the racetrack. Misjudges, could have lifted to get back in. He didn't, he misjudged it, gets into Kyle Busch. There's the block. Now I got to get back, and around he goes.
And I'll tell you, I agree with Jeff that I don't believe he did it on purpose, but it's kind of hard to defend misjudging using your right front fender.
You're still bottom of 3, middle of 4 now, middle of 4. Bracket, hang on here, hang on.
Jeff, it almost sounded like, did he hit the rev chip? Like it was a weird sounding sound. I mean, there's a lot going on there. I mean, it doesn't matter, but it was just really crazy. There was a lot going on. Just listen in.
There's a shift.
It almost sounds like he's in the rev chip. Now, I don't know if they're out of the gas at that point or what's going on. I guess maybe if it hits the rev chip, it stops accelerating, and that's why the 7 misjudges it so poorly?
Yeah, I don't, it looked like to me that Kyle Busch is right against the car in front of him. So
that's what I mean. It was
a lot of times drivers won't shift because then you don't have to downshift, right? So in a normal situation, you would do an upshift to keep it out of the rev limiter. However, you're in the middle of this chaos. Yeah. You want both hands on the wheel, and you don't want to have to downshift for the approaching corner. So I hear what you're saying, and I think it was in the rev chip, but I don't think that's what caused this. I think this was a misjudgment in an aggressive situation.
And this is really a tough situation for crew chief. I've never driven into turn 1. 4 wide. I mean, I've seen it happen over and over and over again. That's why I love when Jeff breaks it down. But if Kyle Busch is my driver and we're having this bad year, if I'm Randall Burnett, I need to ask him. I'm like, man, do we have to have a conversation with LaJoie? Like, tell me what happened there, because what I have learned is the guys in the car, they're the only ones that really know, right? We kind of analyze it from camera, but when we slow it down frame by frame, Jeff, you taught me that years ago. Breaking these down in slow motion is sometimes very unfair because it happens much quicker. But it is definitely questionable when you catch the front tire. I remember Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott at Darlington one time. Yep. Remember, Kyle was trying to get behind Chase and caught him in the rear bumper, really the same way. Kim.
And here's what we heard from the LaJoie radio.
You all good there?
I think so. Check the notes. He hooked himself.
Yeah, I ain't worried about him. It's all about us. Focus forward here. Yeah, you let him have it the first time, second time, he got what he deserved. All good.
Well, that right there doesn't, to be honest with you, if I'm not only Kyle Busch, but all the other guys that got in the wreck, that's not what I'm listening. That's not what I'm really unhappy with that, because he hooked himself. Well, yes, right here, this big block, right? That's a big block. That's an aggressive block. But this, Kyle Busch didn't hook himself there. He got hooked there. And if LaJoie thinks he deserved that, then, you know, LaJoie has the prerogative to do it. But
he has to go explain it to the 21 and the 41 and the 16 and the 47. I mean,
and it's not and by the way, it's not the racetrack you want to hook somebody.
No.
You are flying down at the end of turn 1. So, yes, you have to stand your ground, Rick. You can't let people push you around, because if you let them push you around, they'll always push you around. This is the margin drivers stand on every time they get in a race car. How aggressive am I willing to be? What is the cost I'm willing to pay? And I want to say this too, Steve. There's been many times that it looked like I intentionally wrecked somebody, and I'm telling you I didn't.
That's right.
Right? I made a mistake. So I'm very careful in judging intention. But when I hear the radio, he got what he deserved, that leads me to, okay, that wasn't an accident.
It's like Exhibit A. If you were presenting this, of course, Exhibit A is the radio.
Yeah. All right, so before this incident was when the 38 had the right front go down and got into the wall in turn number 1. Todd Gilliland out of the car and now standing by with Kim.
Yeah, Todd Gilliland with a challenging day. It sounded like a brake rotor issue. Was the car giving you any indication that there was a problem?
We fought with a little bit of brake shake, you know, a little bit through practice, and then, yeah, a little bit at the beginning of the race, and then, you know, just probably 5 laps before that, my brake pedal started to get a little bit long, and yeah, and it just blew in the middle of the straightaway, kind of odd, but yeah, no, I've never had that before, and we've been really lucky. We've had some really well-built Ford Mustangs coming out from Front Row Motorsports, and yeah, we haven't had very many mechanical issues over the last 3 years. So yeah, just thank you all those guys still for giving us great cars, and C.H. Reed, Quincy on board, and again, like I said, Ford. So yeah, we'll keep battling. Definitely not our best day to begin with, so we've got still a lot of work to do, but we'll try and learn from it.
Todd Gilliland remains very optimistic. Only his second DNF on the 2024 season.
I understand his confusion. We have seen many brake failures there. I'm not shocked by that, but normally it's like when you touch the brakes at the end of the straightaway. Now, thank goodness it wasn't, because when that happens, you're out of opportunity. We saw Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, some huge wrecks down at turn 1 here. So this is a really awkward racetrack. You use a lot of brakes. You don't like to cool them, and you can overcool them and they crack.
He mentioned brake shake, but at the same time, normally when we see a rotor go or something, there's a lot more damage around that wheel well. This looked like a tire went down in the middle of the straightaway.
What he's saying is he feels he knows it's a brakes, because I'm guessing Jeff, he steps on the brake pedal and it's not there. You know, like it goes to the floor. So, you know, you push the pads out, and so yeah, they'll have to dig through it.
And it sounds different. It is a different sound when a rotor explodes. It has a very unique sound compared to when just a tire blows, because when that rotor explodes, it's destroying everything that's around it. It's going through the aluminum wheel. It's going through everything, all the steel, all the sheet metal. It's a different sound. Now, the tire blows after that, too, and then the sound of the wall, all that can come together, but it is unique.
I'm just going to take his word on that one, Rick. I don't need to experience it.
Normally the fire after that's alarming as well.
Yeah. All right, let's go through the field, brought to you by Homes.com. Marty.
And Rick, let's talk about the top 5 drivers. Ryan Blaney had the question for Jonathan Hassler a moment ago. Does this caution buy us what we need to make sure we get to the end of the race? Hassler said, I'll get back to you at the end of the caution and tell you where we stand, as we're still embedded with the 12 team. We'll get up there and maybe get a word with Jonathan Hassler in just a moment. Blaney in a position to get a second win in the last few weeks. Meanwhile, Denny Hamlin has not reported anything wrong with the brakes. He had a long pedal on that last run, but this clean air helps him out tremendously, and he just talked through the restart with Chris Gabehart a moment ago, Kim.
And for Alex Bowman running into third, coming off that win at Chicago Street Course, this team collectively sighed relief coming into this weekend. They said that win gave them a lot more flexibility strategy-wide, but we've seen a fast car from them too. Right now, Alex just a little bit tight. Couldn't really feel the adjustments they made on the last pit stop, Parker.
And for William Byron in 4th place here, he spent most of the day in the top 10, but has struggled mightily with the handling of that race car. 1 point lost the front and the rear tires of that race car, complaining that they both were just going away too fast for him to hold on to. They find themselves in the top 5 here and should be good on fuel with these caution laps, so they could put themselves in position to go up there and challenge the 12 and the 11. Behind him, Joey Logano, the 22. We started the day with him getting very loose in turn 2 and struggling over that bump. It has not gotten any better throughout this day. He has struggled on the entry of the corners and currently struggling with the right front. They've just tried to find that balance between being too loose but having speed and getting the comfortable need that he needs inside that race car, Kim.
And Parker, Kyle Busch has been released from the care center. There were a lot of questions on what happened during that incident. Can you offer us some more clarity on what happened?
No, I just want to thank all of our partners and everybody that's been behind our program at RCR, ECR Engines, obviously Zone Nicotine Pouches, and Cheddar's, Lucas Oil, everybody for their support and continuing to back us and be behind us, and of course the fans and Rowdy Nation as well too.
It seemed like there was an issue between you and LaJoy. Is there a conversation that needs to be had?
Nah.
All right, frustrated Kyle Busch down here as he is out of the race early.
I'm not sure which Kyle Busch we see. Sometimes he's more disappointed with the way he's raced, and then other times like this where he seemed like he wanted to hold all of his comments, and that's what we have to go with.
Kyle is overwhelmed with the disappointment of the year, and over the last month, what's gone right? Almost nothing. And so why stir up something, you also have to deal with that, right? So just say nothing. Sometimes I know fans and we like to hear them say something. It's, you know, it's entertainment, it's fun or whatever, but the truth of the matter is now you got to deal with it. And sometimes it's just better to just walk away and say nothing.
Well, NASCAR has onboards in every camera. This is onboard with the 7. I'm not sure that changes my opinion of the situation. Well, keep that restart in mind because they're double file through turns 3. Kim.
Yeah, and as you guys were talking about that Corey LaJoie radio, it was actually not Corey that said he got what he deserved. That was incorrect. It was crew chief Ryan Sparks that said it. So we did want to offer some clarification on that.
Getting ready for the restart, 2 by 2, Blaney and Hamlin. Hamlin on the inside, Blaney on the outside.
Ooh, Truex jumps out 3 wide. That kills the momentum on the bottom lane. Blaney getting a big push up top.
Three and 4 wide going through turn 1 on this restart.
Oh no, back
up into the wall. And a couple get caught up. The 42 of John Hunter Nemechek. There's the 71. That's Zane Smith. They were trying to exit one.
I think no really big contact here. We didn't nose it into the inside.
They were exiting turn 1 and there were 3 wide.
Yeah, it started, it looked like McDowell was in the wall coming off turn 1. 42 car. He is sitting on the blocks, essentially on the chassis. It's not going to move. They're going to have to get him. Crazy restarts. We talked about it. McDowell on the outside. Yeah, I just think Nemechek, Zane, they made contact. Wasn't enough room. I'm not so sure they knew McDowell was there. Yeah, just Nemechek up the racetrack into Zane, then Zane into McDowell, and those two got the worst of it. That's a contact with the inside wall.
It's actually a great view of that inside wall, Jeff. You know, at the beginning of the show, Rick, you and I talked about some of the huge wrecks here. We saw Elliott Sadler, one of the most famous on this backstretch. Pocono made huge improvements years ago of lining this entire inside, and why you think it's crazy because the wall's closer. You know, they don't get in the grass. We've seen cars get upside down, so a huge facility staying up to date.
We've seen barrel rolls on the backstretch here at Pocono. So another caution. That's 7 now from Pocono, and this is the most recent. There's really nowhere to go for McDowell as he was right up against the wall as these other cars came up.
Yeah, McDowell real aggressive on restarts. You can see they're 4 wide. And then the contact right there, right? There just wasn't enough room. Nemechek up the racetrack a little bit into Zane. Then Zane gets into McDowell, and then they make contact. And that's, look, man, it's just racing. I mean, they're just, their guys are asking so much of their cars, and sometimes it's just not enough room.
Well, you mentioned big wrecks. That right there, the 9 of Casey Kane, huge hit. Watch this one right here. We talked about that inside wall making all the difference. This is get rid of all that grass. This shot right here, that's Elliott Sadler in the 19. That knocks the engine out of his race car. And then Jimmy Johnson, we talked about brake failure. We talked Gilliland. You see Jimmy Johnson, that's a huge hit. He sits down. And then this one right here, Reddick, Austin Dillon. Just an unbelievable accident. Dillon shows his displeasure. So this is a track that, Jeff, I know you've been a part of some and you've seen them, and it really shocks me how aggressive, you know, I don't know how to put myself in the mindset of these drivers because this is 160, 170 miles an hour, and they are asked to race it like a short track, and they do. They're elbows up, pushing and shoving, filling every hole that's available, 2 wide, 3 wide. Like right there, the 42 was coming up. I'm not sure he was wanting to, but that's where his car was going. And the 71 was holding his position because he knows if he breathes the gas, he's going to lose 5 spots.
And if you lose 5 spots, you may never get them back.
Right.
Well, the caution means that when we come back, there's a restart. And we're going to try it again, see if we can get through turn 1. coming up on 30 laps remaining at Pocono. And we have seen an issue with the field trying to get through turn 1 on these restarts. Right now scored in the 4th position is Joey Logano, and Parker is with Paul Wolf.
Right, Rick, let's catch up with him and ask some serious questions here. So we know you're good on fuel, but you're now in position. Do you have the speed to contend, and where do you want to choose on this restart? Which lane? You got a teammate up there.
Yeah, I mean, we're good on fuel, and obviously we've found the track position. Obviously, it was a game of that all day with, you know, really about fuel. Tires didn't seem to be worth a lot of speed, so it was all about trying to time some of those cautions when you wanted to pit. Obviously, we've gotten on the good end of it. Now we've got the track position, and yeah, we've worked on the Shell Pennzoil Ford all day, and I think we've got pretty reasonable speed. I think us and the 12 are real close, and they've shown speed as well when they're up front. So I think we got a shot at it. That's what you hope for. After your last pit stop, you're in the top 5 and got a shot, and I think it's where we put ourselves.
Marty, they got a shot. That's all you can ask for.
His teammate Ryan Blaney has a shot as well. He's in the lead right now. So Jonathan Hassel, I'll ask you the same question your driver's been asking you. The last caution bought you enough fuel to get to the end. Does this one buy you enough for an overtime?
Yeah, we certainly weren't good when we pitted, but these couple cautions have come at a pretty opportune time for us. So I think we're in good shape now. We can go race for the win.
All right, I see Blaney took the outside there. Is that something you would stick with in subsequent restarts?
Yeah, the outside seems to be preferred here at Pocono with most guys, you know, from the lead taking the outside. It's been pretty good to us today.
All right, can Blaney get a second win in the last couple of weeks? About to find out, Rick.
So Blaney takes the outside. We've got Hamlin behind him, Logano behind Hamlin. So that outside line, those 3 lined up.
Yeah, so Logano actually gave a lane up. He could have gone to the bottom, but restarting on the inside. He actually gave a lane up. He could be where the 24 car is. He said, nope, I don't want to be there. I want to be on the outside. That's, you know, you would think, hey, why would you ever give a lane up? He clearly is thinking the momentum is going to be better on the outside lane. There's no doubt the top is the way to go on the restart for the leader. But when you get this far back, what really matters is what does the line in front of you do? How well does it get going?
And we've seen these accidents, you know, kind of in the middle or the back of the pack. But we've also seen them up front. You know, we've seen Hamlin, Chastain, Hamlin, and Larson. And with 30 to go, I expect the front 2 rows to probably play a little bit nicer. But as those laps wind down, the aggression through 1 will continue to go up. But how about the 48 of Bowman? Right here, back on the front row again. I mean, wins last week. And it's funny how confidence works, right? I mean,
I love the conversation with him, you know, before the race, and I started talking about it earlier. You know, I asked him off camera, hey man, did it really mean more? And he's like, yes, like that race was massive for my career. People questioned me. I had all these injuries, a head injury, you know, and to win after all of that, when people are questioning that I can do it, Rick Hendrick stuck with me. Yes, it was different. How do you use that going into the playoffs? Here's how you use it.
Yeah.
Get more points. You try to get this win.
It'll be 29 laps to go. And now with these cautions that have come out, everyone should be good with fuel to get to the distance that has been prescribed. And back up through the gears we go. 29 to go. Blaney with the advantage. Bowman on the inside now of row 2. One slow going back. Looks like a tire going down. A lot of smoke coming out. Or it looks like the engine may have expired for the 54 of Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, it looks like smoke out of both sides of the pipe. So I think your analysis is right. Engine for the 54.
So Alex Bowman came out in 2nd. Logano, we talked about him giving it that row. It worked for him. He came out in 4th.
Blaney, Bowman, Hamlin, Logano. Fire in the top 5.
That 54 going down to turn 1 had that engine issue. It's going to be interesting to see if apparently the track's clear. It was still green. You see right there, fluid out the pipes.
This thing's completely grenaded.
So you hope that no fluid is on the racetrack as the group gets ready to head into turn 1 right now. We'll see how high everybody stays up. A few going down low, and the caution comes out.
Fluid on the back straightaway. Save what you can.
I think that's a smart call right there. All that we were watching the oil and the water come out of the exhaust pipes, and there's only one place that can go. So NASCAR didn't want to throw that caution because he wanted to give everybody green flag racing, but I think it was 100% the right thing to do.
Yeah, the concern is right here, right? I mean, he does a nice job of pulling left, but he's still going fast enough, and now it really explodes both pipes. You know, I think he slows down enough to get below the yellow line, but well, again, right there, and you just see that U mixture. Wow. Oil and water makes chocolate milk, Rick. I didn't know if you know that, but that's what it looks like.
They're never supposed to be together.
Nope.
No.
And when they are coming out of the pipe, it's the end of the day.
A Yoo-hoo reference.
Yeah, it's Yoo-hoo.
As it goes by a water bottle. And so, another caution comes out. This is the 8th one of the day. Yeah, a lot of fluid going out on the track there. So there'll be another restart after they clean up the backstretch.
He wouldn't have made it back to pit road anyway, so either way they were going to have to throw the caution and come get him.
Well, we're now working the 13th lap of yellow since Ryan Blaney and Bowman, Hamlin, Logano filled up with fuel. So that whole, think about that. We ran all day, strategy, fuel, how much fuel to put in, all of these conversations. And really now it just lines up to these crazy restarts. But I think Paul Wolfe said it the best, which is, you know, none of those strategies are a guarantee, but you just want to be in position after your last stop.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace, we keep talking about him because he came into the race 45 points below the cut line. Look where he is right now. Chastain with the problem early in the race. Now this is another position. Any car that has trouble, the 23 is going to finish in front of. So now he's up to 10th place. If he could go get 5 more spots, I mean, he's going to cut this to low 20s. You know, and that immediately puts tons of pressure on Chastain.
You know, Jeff, you talked about the 48 of Alex Bowman a minute ago, right before that restart. And I'm gonna blame myself a little bit that I think we move on a little too fast after injuries at times, right? Like it's natural. We go back racing every single week. And when you look at Alex Bowman, this is a guy that kind of non-flashy, but always found his way to win races, right? 21, he has 4 wins, a career high. And then 22, he goes out and he has an accident at Texas.
Yeah, but great start.
Yeah, great start.
He's first place, first in the playoffs after that 3rd race.
Yeah, and then you think about that concussion at Texas. We are at Pocono where Kurt Busch, his career was ended by an accident here, right? So I think, me personally, I'm like, well, he came back at 23 and ran so well, I just instantly put it behind me. I was focusing on the broken back, but his emotion after winning, his emotion with you, Jeff, I believe it kind of goes back to that, right? It's one thing to have a winless streak, but to come back from injury is just a completely different level. And you mentioned the confidence, you mentioned where he's at right here. You just wonder how far this guy can go now that, I mean, it's behind him, right? He's got that win at the street course.
And let's listen back into his press conference after the win at the street course last week.
Yeah, so to everybody that said I couldn't win and don't deserve to be at Hendrick Motorsports and all that bullshit, cheers to you.
Get him. I mean, that's the kind of attitude I want with my driver. And, you know, I do think that he's underrated. Is he as good as Kyle Larson? I'm not saying that he is, but he is a very, very good race car driver and young. He is still young with a tremendous upside. And think about this. There's 24 drivers in this field today that have wins. He's 11th of all of those guys. Okay, so he is way above average of the people he's racing against. Who's going to take his seat? Who's better? Right? So I think Rick Hendrick, the car owner, is smart enough, and Jeff Gordon is smart enough to see the talent in Alex Bowman. And they have been patient with him through his recovery, and that's what he's been going through, is a recovery. There's a tremendous upside, and I think you're going to see it.
From someone who worked 20 years at Hendrick Motorsports, you have to have that attitude. Because to your point, Jeff, Rick Hendrick, Jeff Gordon, they support you through the bitter end. I have been part of some very low points when this guy, Chackenhouse, was beating me every single Sunday with Jimmy Johnson. They always support the teams that are struggling. but they don't coddle you. You have to have the I belong attitude, I can win attitude. If you don't, that is the wrong organization for you. Some people can't find that attitude, and you have to have it because Mr. Hendrick kind of provides everything to you. So, it was good to hear that was his response.
Good strategy move from a week ago to get that win for the 48 team. That was Blake Harris getting his first win. Here's Kim.
And for the second straight week, we're talking to Blake Harris at the end of a race, looking for back-to-back wins. But we've seen the incidents compound. We know restarts are wild. What are you telling your driver at this point in the race?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just kind of how we get going on the restarts, right? I thought we've had really good restarts on the outside, and then we had our teammate behind us there. Certainly got a good push and lots of Hendrick horsepower keeping us in the mix. So I think as long as we can shake out in the top couple cars, no matter which lane we go in, I think we can have a shot at them.
We'll see if this 48 team can go back-to-back, Marty.
Let's chat with Chris Gabehart. The chances for Denny Hamlin to get his 8th Pocono win. What does Denny need to do maybe a little bit different on this restart, Chris?
Well, we've been here a lot over the years. Denny even longer than me, obviously, in these situations. So I can't think of anyone who understands the situation better than him at Pocono. We haven't got it quite right yet, but I think either way we got a really fast car and a great driver. So we just need to get going here and see how it plays out.
With all these cautions, Chris, are teams now good with even maybe up to 2 or 3 overtimes?
Yeah, fuel is no longer the focus for the first green, white checker few, but obviously in NASCAR now we can have like 27. So we're definitely not good for 27, but maybe a couple.
All right, this team does not have to go back too far, Steve, to remember Nashville just a couple weeks ago when they had it and they thought they had the win in the bag, but a lot of overtime starts in Nashville and it didn't work out for them there.
Yeah, you remember this racetrack from his rookie year. Denny Hamlin loved this place and figured it out right away.
Yeah, I remember that practice. He wasn't quite on everybody's radar. We used to have those 3 like 1-hour practices, and everybody was scratching their head what he knew about this place that we hadn't figured out. Because you're right, Rick, it was kind of a natural fit.
Yeah, a sweep. Won both races, and so that's where everything started.
But this is what's so great. Like, look at this lineup as we see Ty Gibbs climb out. It has to be disappointed. That's such a great car. But I mean, the lineup we have here racing for the finish, there's some heavyweights, right? Blaney, Bowman, Hamlin, Logano, Byron, Truex Jr., Bell, Keselowski. My goodness.
And emotionally, Steve, 25 to go. That's go time. I mean, I don't care where you're from, what kind of racing you do, right? And so, yes, this isn't a quarter-mile short track somewhere, but it's winning time. And we talked about strategy. You've gotten in this position because of strategy. You've gotten in this position, but now you have to execute on it. And now you go push the buttons. And we've seen that the last 2 restarts, Rick. That's what's happening. The aggression level has stepped up, and that's why we're seeing these cautions, and that's not going to stop.
And some other names, we talked about those, right? Well, let's think about Briscoe in 12th, right? Eric Jones, he has that streak, 8 top 10s at this racetrack at 12 starts, but look right behind him. The 9 of Chase Elliott after that speeding penalty, through all this chaos, has moved his way up to 14th with 24 to go, right? You have the 5 of Kyle Larson in 19th. They were, if this thing restarts the first time and runs green to the finish, they are out of this race. They're not going to make that up. But every cycle we kind of get, I mean, look, all the way down to 28th. Here he is back to 14th. These are you don't want to keep these guys around.
Yeah, he made up 12 spots on a previous restart. So we know he's got the speed. He's got the abilities. We'll see what will happen on this restart. It'll be 23 to go in the race. Again, the caution coming out this time after the 54 of Ty Gibbs has an engine expire. Blaney, Bowman, Hamlin, Logano, Byron, top 5. Truex, Bell, Keselowski, Reddick, Wallace, top 10.
All right, so everybody has a job to do. Blaney in the outside, his goal, get a great launch, get Denny Hamlin to push him. Don't get yourself in a position where Hamlin can jump on the outside of you, get into turn 1. Blaney's not going to let that happen. If you're Bowman, you kind of want to do the same thing. You want a great push from your teammate, William Byron. You have to trust your teammate. You shouldn't have to be worried about protecting that inside line. But William Byron doesn't have that advantage. He's got Truex behind him. He is going to try to make it 3 wide as soon as he can.
Do extended aerial coverage with Shady Rays. As coming out of turn 3. Blaney on the outside. Back up through the gears he goes. Very aggressive outside line. Blaney with the advantage over Bowman as they enter one, but here comes the 11 of Hamlin. Bowman not able to use the entire racetrack. That gives the momentum now to Hamlin as they go into turn 2. Hamlin not quite able to make the pass. And now into the wide sweeping turn 3. Blaney trying to pull away.
See Alex Bowman turning left, trying to get away from the side draft of that 11 car. Can he clear him? It's so close.
He's got the car in front of him, and Bowman clears the 11 of Hamlin. Now behind him, Logano trying to keep that 19 behind him. Martin Truex Jr. trying to get by. Here comes the 45. Reddick's going to give the 22 a little shove. That allowed the 22 of Logano to clear that 19, and here comes the 45. He'll also now fight for position with Martin Truex Jr.
Keselowski making it 3 wide. Entering 3.
Reddick on the outside, right up against the wall as they come onto the front stretch. Blaney, a half a second advantage, but it's going away. Bowman is starting to reel him back in. Reddick clears the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. Here comes Keselowski in the 6.
You said it, Alex Bowman was 0.3 of a second faster that lap than Blaney. Now Alex has to start figuring out where his car is better and trying to take advantage of it. Blaney has to do the same thing. He's got to do a little bit of blocking here. Where did the 48 run the last lap? Wherever he went, that's where you need to go. Take it away from him. It's not what happened here. The 12 on the bottom, 48 on the top. Let's see if Bowman can get a run down the front straightaway. If he can, then that's the secret. That's how you got to get this done. Use the high lane in 3 to carry momentum down the front straightaway, and it, no question, worked.
20 laps. And entering turn 1, 2 car lengths separate the top 2.
Oh, another good run off the corner. Right now, the spotter on the 12 car, he needs to be telling Ryan Blaney, hey man, this 48's fast in the second lane. Gonna need you to change it up a little bit.
Take that clean air away from him, Jeff.
That's exactly right.
Still 2 car lengths separate the top 2.
He goes to the bottom. Nope, there he goes to the middle of the racetrack. That's exactly what he needed to do. Now Bowman has to make an adjustment to how he's driving the car. Blaney took away what I wanted. That was the first time he had to run the bottom. He stored that away. Now he knows what his car does down there well, and what it doesn't do well, he has to adjust his driving style.
Trying to use the draft, trying to follow right after the 12 before they get into the turn.
Oh, Bowman tight right there.
Way up the racetrack.
Yeah, just car did not rotate that time the way it did the time before. Blaney doing his job in front of him.
Hamlin sitting back there in 3rd. He's 1.1 seconds behind Blaney. Then it's Byron, Logano, Reddick, Truex Jr., Keselowski, Elliott, and Wallace.
So now I think Bowman goes back to the top because he's far enough away. No matter what Blaney does, the top is better. Oh, went to the bottom.
The mind games that are being played right now. These spotters are telling him, okay, this is where he's going. He's behind you and he's taking this line.
Yeah, and with that new rear view camera, these drivers drive right off from that screen.
Blaney again through the middle of the turn, down Long Pond straightaway, and he starts to pull away from Bowman. Blaney putting great laps together, back to back. The disappointment for Ryan Blaney and that team not that long ago at St. Louis at Gateway, when they came across the line with 1 lap to go and they ran out of fuel. Well, that disappointment was thrown away after Iowa when they had 80 family members there in Iowa. His mom grew up just south of Des Moines, and those 80 family members cheered him on to his first win of 2024, locked him into the playoffs so he can defend his title he won a year ago.
Remember when Ryan Blaney won here driving for the Wood Brothers, he had to beat some of the very best to get it done on that day. Very similar situation.
Keselowski and Martin Truex Jr. door to door as they went through turn 2.
Six had some pretty good laps, ran down the 19, got side by side, and the 19 defended. Really, after practice, I had the 19 as the best car, but it never really showed up today. He's been complaining about his balance. Chris Buescher and Christopher Bell, the 17 and the 20 side by side. Something kind of went away, I think, on that 19 car from practice.
Buescher side drafting the 20 of Bell here, trying to pull him back. Those two continue to fight for the 11th spot.
Larson right behind him, hoping they run side by side. He can try to catch him without momentum. Here, Brad finally gets the pass complete on Truex. He'll try to move forward. Reddick next up for the 6th car. Brad was the last guy on. They all pitted at 117 together. A late break move right there by the 9. Brad took 4 tires. Jeff, you asked earlier about 2 tires and how it would pay off. You wonder if a little bit of this speed out of Brad isn't just those fresher left side tires. That or just his car balance, maybe the adjustments.
Well, he's got 15 laps to get there. It's a lot of racing, but he's going to have to get going quickly, Parker.
Right, as we watch Chase Elliott trying to make that pass here. This is about the 4th time of this race that he's had to carve his way through the field, showing the speed they have in traffic. Remember, had that speeding penalty when they were going to come out in the top 5 when they took 2 tires, has to fight his way back to that. Obviously, there has been some wrecks that have helped, but to carve all the way back up the top 10 and still showing the speed this 9 car has here today to finish off strong.
And it was last week when Chase Elliott actually finished outside the top 20 for the first time. His average finish this season has been 10.6.
That's crazy.
Excellent.
I can remember when I first came into the sport, the champion didn't have anything like that.
And still trying to complete the pass on Martin Truex Jr.
These guys are like stuck together.
Oh, that's it.
Well, he's going to slide up, though. Kind of overdrove the corner. Truex is going to go right back by.
Yeah, that's something that we see so often. You know, drivers have, you know, it's so hard to pass that they've learned that they can just overdrive their corner, slide up in front of the guy.
Comes Bubba Wallace now as he looks to the outside of Chase Elliott.
I kind of like that move right there. See if you can. He couldn't stay there. Fastest car on the racetrack last lap was Brad Keselowski. 14 to go. I don't think he can go from 7th to 1st under green. But 1 yellow, stack him up. You know, you just don't know where he's at.
12 to go. Going to come by next time. Blaney still out front. He has a 1.2 second advantage over Bowman. And it's 1.7 seconds back to Hamlin. We mentioned Keselowski and the speed that that car has. 4.7 seconds separate race leader Blaney from Keselowski.
You know, you mentioned it, Rick, but with all the yellows, 16 in total yellow flag laps since the last pit stop, we believe everyone is good on fuel. I only bring it up because we have seen some strange situations where cars have run out where people thought they were good on fuel. I don't think that's the case here, but with 13 to go, we'll just keep an eye on it. Keep our ears open to the radios to see if they have anything to say.
Remember, we saw a smile on Blaney's face when we were talking to him at the beginning of the show. You mentioned, you know, his first win coming here. You think about the path that Ryan Blaney has gone on. He was driving for Wood Brothers when he got this win.
He was, and he got by Busch, and then Kevin Harvick. Those two guys at the top of their game. He had two he held off to get this win.
There's that smile. But a win at Pocono against a couple of the best.
From there to being a champion. And this is where he is really good. I think Brian's strength, every driver has strengths and weaknesses. Brian's strength is speed. He's just a fast race car driver, and he's comfortable with his car not being perfect. You give him clean air and a lot of racetrack, it's going to be hard to beat him. He is dialed in with his race car, dialed in with the field that he needs, can push the limits of it, and operate right on the edge of grip.
Well, when we talked to him in practice, I really loved his answer about the balance in all three corners. You see Jonathan Hassler, crew chief right here. He was good in 1 and 3, but so tight in 2, and just the way he kind of talked about it. He knew that that balance had to be adjusted. It seemed like he was comfortable with the compromise that's required to be good at a racetrack with 3 very, very different corners. Now, I believe Bowman, Hamlin, Byron, I mean, I think they all have impressive pace, but it's about that track position. You know, we kind of talk strategy all day because of this. Remember, you know, it ended up being fuel fill situation where on the last pit stop he could take, Blaney took a very short fill of fuel, had a fast pit stop and got track position or kept track position. That's why strategy was such an important thing. It might not jump off the page at you, but in the end, you know, Blaney was first. And that's kind of what he's done. He's held on to it.
We saw a shot of Gianna Tullio. That's Ryan's fiance. They have since become engaged since he won the championship a year ago. Last year at the end of the season.
Hamlin searching around. Almost ran the top of the tunnel to get that clean air.
You can see all these guys are, you know, they're the second, third fastest cars, but Blaney's just better right now. Unless there's a caution, Blaney makes a mistake, has a mechanical failure. We've seen it happen here before. We thought Larson had one, had a left front go down coming to get the checkered.
Under 9 to go. All right, crew chief. Now you've got Ryan Blaney out front with a 1.9 second lead. What kind of words are you saying to him? Are you encouraging him? Are you telling him to be calm?
So I think every driver is different, but I believe that, you know, looking at the overall pace, unless there's a fuel concern or something to that point, I'm letting the driver, the spotter, be the communicator. I might tell him 10 to go, probably 5 to go, and then count the laps down from there, but I'm not bothering him during green flag racing.
A few more updates with under 9 to go. We'll start with Marty.
Rick, could it be career win number 12 for driver number 12, Ryan Blaney? And he said the championship last year really changed his perspective on things. He learned not to let every little thing bother him, every week bother him when things did not go well. Unbelievably, Kim, this team had 0 wins a month ago. This could be a second in 5 weeks.
Well, the most recent winner, Alex Bowman, sits in the second position, and they felt very confident coming into this weekend, and that's due to that win last week. That puts them in a different ball game right now. They are looking, yes, they would like another win, but outside of that, a better points position heading into the playoffs, because remember, the top 10 in points in regular season get those bonus points. So now until the playoffs kick up, this team looking for as many extra points as possible to break into that top 10 in the standings, Marty.
Kim, looking like another strong Pocono run for Denny Hamlin, sitting in third right now. He radioed to Chris Gabehart a moment ago, said the car's just too tight as I sit behind the 48. Gabehart said coyly, hey, don't worry about me. Don't talk to me, Rick. Focus on what you're doing, and he might get that spot from Bowman right here.
He's trying to take second away. He does it on the outside of the exit of turn 3, and now Hamlin is in second, and let's see if he can close the gap with under 7 laps to go. Blaney has a 2.3 second lead.
Well, I feel like the 48 was holding the 11 up, and let's see. You see right there, hey, he's gapped him already. Let's see what this next lap looks like. Blaney's done a great job of getting away from him, but anytime Denny Hamlin's in a car at Pocono, you better not count him out. He's had so much success here.
Michael McDowell's in between Blaney and Hamlin. We'll see. Yeah, McDowell's going to go drop to the bottom of the racetrack. He will get out of the way. 2.2 seconds. Let's see if that number continues to go down. 2.1 seconds.
6 to go right here. How far am I back?
How far am I back?
Wow.
2.1.
0.3 of a second that time. It's going to make it interesting. That's about 1.8 of the 2.1. And
but then he still has to pass him.
Well, he does, but you know, if he grows in that mirror, I think Ryan Blaney's as good as they come at closing out a race, but it's got to get your attention, Jeff, right? When you know that guy's coming.
Well, he asked, how far back? Like, how far back is he? 31 car having trouble. He looks like he had contact with the wall. The right rear toe link, something in the suspension is broken.
Daniel Hemrick limping his way back to pit road, possibly. As long as he stays off the racing surface. Let's see if NASCAR keeps it green.
He's on pit road now.
Yep, sure enough. Coming up on 5 laps to go. Again, the gap was 2.1. Across the stripe, 2.2. Blaney picked it up.
Looks like Blaney was managing the gap. He found 0.3 of a second that lap.
That's why I asked how far back.
Yeah, I wanted to keep him about that far back. That's what impresses me about race car drivers with the emotion of the moment. They are still very cerebral, right? It's not just chaos. This isn't a qualifying lap. Like, Blaney is picking and choosing his spots to push. He had to pass McDowell, who kind of pulled over and let everybody by, which is polite of the driver of the 34. And now that he knows Hamlin was next in line, he decided to push a little bit.
The best race car drivers in the world understand their craft, and it's an art driving a race car. And it's not just with hands and feet, it's with your brain. You have to think your way through a race. These are not little short races. These things are long. You have to do everything right for the entire time. Again, Blaney quicker by about 1/10 of a second.
And I think the 11, Chris Gabehart, Denny Hamlin, when they go back and review this race, I think they're really going to look at that decision to sit under yellow at the end of stage 2 and fill their car up with fuel, because Hamlin kind of had control, or was dancing around control of this race. That rotated him back. Now, that did shorten his stop, and and he made some of the ground back, but he could never quite get in front of Blaney. Remember, Blaney stopped before the end of stage 2 under green. Hamlin chose to stay out and win that stage. I agree with that decision. Take the playoff point. But that decision, we have continued to see stages change how the races are run. I would say that was the turning point from the 11 and the 12. How was this race swapped? It was the win at the end of stage 2 for the 11 and the 12 deciding to stop early.
And Steve, going to Indy next week, a racetrack kind of the same size, you can play the same strategies. These lessons you can learn, but mistakes that teams make, they learn from them, but their competition also learns from them. They will use a tremendous amount of data from this race in regard to strategy and try to apply next week.
You see Team Penske and the struggles here at Pocono. It was all the way back in 2011 with Brad Keselowski. That's 4,725 days ago when Team Penske won at Pocono. Could be their weekend, though, because they've had great success already. Rogers' IndyCar teams won yesterday and today. McLaughlin getting his first oval win at Iowa, and then it was Will Power today that was able to grab a victory. 2 laps remaining for Blaney. Can he close out the weekend for a Penske sweep? And Ryan Blaney learned a year ago how to win a championship. You have got to peak at the right time, and it helps to have playoff points to get you through the round of 16 and the round of 12, to where in the round of 8 you're fighting to win a race to advance. And once he was in that championship 4, it was Ryan Blaney who was able to outdo the other 3 and get his first title.
You almost want to turn the radio off because you don't want to hear caution, right? you're going to be safe here in just a
one more,
few hundred feet.
1 lap to go, presented by Credit One Bank.
All right, now, no mistakes. As a driver, that's what you focus on. It's not about lap time. It's about not doing anything silly.
Fiance Gianna, and you can tell she's nervous. Deep breaths there as she watches down Long Pond straightaway for Ryan Blaney. Marty mentioned it. 11 career wins for Blaney.
Get home smooth and straight.
And through 3 for the final time. The driver of the 12 looking for win number 12. It's going to be the second time he'll see the checkered flag here at Pocono. Ryan Blaney wins again in 2024.
Fantastic work. Good job, Timmy. Good job, man. Hell yeah, boys. Let's go. Good job, driver. Good job, team. Proud of you guys. Great strategy, man. We needed to go mine. Awesome job on that, man. Really good. Super proud of you.
Embedded with the 12 team today. Marty gave us quite a few different looks at this team and team members as everyone hugs, high fives all around. Another win for Blaney in 2024.
This team is stronger at this point in the year than they were last year. And they executed when it counted. Get that championship, but they have more strength now.
We heard Ryan mention great strategy. You know coming to Pocono that is extremely important, that you play the strategy game right to put you in position, because ultimately there were enough cautions at the end of this race that the strategy pretty much leveled itself out, but it was track position, where you were with your strategy as those cautions came out late in this race. Sold out crowd here at Pocono, able to enjoy this one. And Ryan Blaney is going to go back driver's side so he can wave and thank the fans that are here in the grandstands. Something we saw out of Alan Kulwicki. Races run at Pocono, and 2 of them have been won by the driver of the number 12, Ryan Blaney here. Time to jump out and grab the checkered flag. Five more playoff points for winning a race. And that will now put Ryan Blaney with 12 playoff points, moving him up above Tyler Reddick into 5th in the standings. Marty.
Rick, a rare post-race burnout from Ryan Blaney to celebrate the win and the 50th anniversary here at Pocono in front of the sellout crowd this afternoon. Boy, Ryan, a month ago, you guys had 0 wins, 2 in the last 5 weeks. What has clicked?
Well, I think just, you know, things are really kind of falling into place for us. I feel like we've gotten to a great place on speed the last 2 months especially, and I feel like we honestly had a couple races slip away from us, which I thought we had a good shot at winning. So it was nice to just stick to the plan today, you know, and kind of our plan was just try to have track position at the end because I knew our car was fast enough. So we're super proud of Jonathan, the whole 12 boys. I mean, the Wabash Ford Mustang was amazing. Appreciate Menards, Body Armor, the Worth Group, Advanced Auto Parts, Dex Imaging, everybody who makes this possible. It's so cool to win here again. I won here 7 years ago for my first Cup win, so awesome to be back. The crowd, you guys are amazing. Thank you guys for being here all weekend.
I was going to ask you, you and I talked about how important this place is to you. Would 9-year-old Ryan Blaney have believed when you were winning quarter midget races out there outside of turn 3 that you would have now 2 Cup wins here?
No, at the time I just wasn't thinking of that. You know, I was trying to figure out how I was going to have fun that weekend and how to win that night. And no, I mean, it was super special 7 years ago to win here with the Wood Brothers, and it's just as special to win here today. You know, you love tracks that have special meaning to you, you know, places you get your first win and things like that. So this place means so much to me. My fiance, like a ton of her family's here, so I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to see Gianna's family. But yeah, just so proud of the effort. Looking forward to hopefully continuing this momentum to next week at the Boston's track up in Indy.
So let's talk about how this team is right now, Ryan. You turned it on at the right time to win the championship last year. As we sit here in mid-July, is this the best the 12 team has ever been?
I definitely think we're in a better spot at this time this year than where we were last year at this point. I feel like our speed's better. Like I said, our execution's great. I think we are doing everything as a 12 group the best that we can, you know, and some other kind of unforeseen circumstances kind of have hindered some finishes and possible wins, but I'm just proud of the whole Team Penske group, all those men and women at the race shop. They worked their butts off, you know, to try to get better and deal with the drivers who wouldn't say we need to get a lot better. So appreciate them, Roush Yates Engines, appreciate all the work that they do and continue to do. Go USA.
There you go. The sellout crowd gets to celebrate with Ryan Blaney. He'll grab the checkered flag here in a moment and find a young man or a young woman to hand that to in the crowd, Rick.
Common denominator, it seems to me, is he needs to have family around. He just mentioned that Gianna's family was here at Iowa when he won. He had 80 family members there.
If he keeps winning, they'll keep coming.
Yeah, that's right. Just keep inviting the family. He pointed out one of the Blaney fans there that they wanted to give the checkered flag to. He does that every win. And it looks as though that little fan is going to be able to enjoy and have a memory of today for the rest of her life. Take a look at the playoff standings after this race. Now only 5 to go in the regular season, and Ryan Blaney has moved up to 5th in the rankings. 12 playoff points, so important to start accumulating those to help you get through the rounds when the playoffs begin.
And that's what I'm starting to look at. We talked about the 4 different drivers with 3 wins. Well, Blaney, while he only has 2, is entering that conversation with total playoff points. When you enter those playoffs, it helps with a misstep.
A little bit tighter now between 16th and 17th also as far